Chapter 21. As one of the largest countries in the world, Zhongzhou State had a vast territory and abundant resources. In the hundreds of years since the founding of the country, wealthy families and giant families were not everywhere, but they were not too rare. But in the dark world, the only family that could be called a giant family and could be recognized by everyone was the family that had an invincible being in charge. The Lu family of Huading was a former giant family, which meant that the invincible figure in their family was dead. But this did not mean that the Lu family was desolate. In fact, although the Lu family of Huading was not as glorious as it was in its most glorious period in recent years, it was still an important part of a big force in the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State. The unique skills and martial arts of the invincible figure had been passed down. The Lu family might not look as strong as before, but it had passed the difficult period of losing the invincible figure, so its vitality was stronger than before. From Lu Dongchao's point of view, he had nothing to worry about. But having no worries was not what he pursued in this life. What he pursued was to make everyone worry about him. His biggest dream was to become an expert of the invincible realm like his grandfather, to lead the Lu family to the highest point of power in Zhongzhou State again, and to truly stand among the top wealthy families in Zhongzhou State. Lu Dongchao did not like politics, nor did he want to join the army in a generally stable international situation to gain experience. So he finally chose the special warfare system. He had excellent aptitude since he was a child, and there was the inheritance of the invincible figure in his family. Practicing martial arts and fighting in the dark world was the best choice for him. And he was even luckier that he had a like-minded sister, Lu Dongyu, who was equally talented. The brother and sister were very close to each other. They cooperated well with each other since childhood. Once they joined hands, they could even defeat opponents who were much stronger than them across realms. In this way, not only Lu Dongchao saw hope, but also the Lu family saw the hope of restoring the family to its peak state. So the brother and sister were sent to the Sky Academy at the same time. In the second year of the Sky Academy, when they were less than 25 years old, they successfully entered the fire-flaming realm and established the Flames of War. Among the students of the previous Sky Academy, the Flames of War was definitely one of the strongest organizations, and it was also a strong competitor for the quota of only one person in each session. In fact, 3 months before the last batch of students were about to graduate, Lu Dongchao was also one of the top 3 students with the highest credits. He was only 10 points away from each other. However, 1 month before the final maneuver between the two academies before graduation, in order to increase his final odds of success, Lu Dongchao led a few elites of the Flames of War to carry out a mission worth 500 credits overseas. The mission was completed smoothly, but Lu Dongchao and Lu Dongyu returned with serious injuries. In the maneuver of the two academies that followed, the brother and sister were seriously injured and eliminated halfway. Although they got credits for that mission, they didn't get any credits for the maneuver. This was the graduation maneuver, the maneuver with the most credits awarded. The first place would be awarded 2,000 credits. What did this mean? Lu Dongchao's advantage in credits instantly turned into a disadvantage, and he lost the right to compete for the one and only quota to establish his own force after graduation. Lu Dongchao and his sister were naturally unwilling, and the academy also felt sorry for their misfortune. In the end, under the Lu family's manipulation, Lu Dongchao and his sister stayed in school again. Their credits were reset to 0, and they had to start from scratch. This time, Lu Dongchao was full of confidence. He didn't intend to give anyone the slightest chance, whether it was the seniors or the freshmen. Then, he met Li Tianlan's 5-member squad. To be honest, Lu Dongchao really didn't take these 5 people seriously. Even after they knocked down his 10 subordinates, he still didn't take them seriously. He could see that Li Tianlan was very strong. Li Tianlan should be at the peak of the chi-controlling realm, but he could instantly kill an expert who had just entered the ice-condensing realm. He was indeed a talent, but so what? No matter how strong the chi-controlling realm was, it was still the chi-controlling realm, while he was an expert of the fire-flaming realm. The gap between the realms could not be made up by potential at all. Except for Li Tianlan, the others were also in the ice-condensing realm with amazing potential. However, Lu Dongchao had entered the stabilization phase of the fire-flaming realm. Together with his sister Lu Dongyu, it was a piece of cake for them to suppress these rising stars if they went all out. But he felt that he still cherished talents, so he was willing to give them a chance. As long as they were willing to kneel down to show submission and join the flames of war, he could let bygones be bygones. After all, talents were rare. But he didn't expect these freshmen to be so ungrateful. Not only did they not kneel down, but they even asked him to kneel to them. It was ridiculous. In Lu Dongchao's view, kissing and kneeling were very normal things. In the Sky Academy, he had seen many beautiful women who were willing to be played by others in order to save 10 credits a month on food and drink. He had also seen many weak people who were willing to knock their foreheads to beg for forgiveness from the strong. In the Sky Academy, the strong should consider their future, while the weak should consider becoming stronger and surviving. In Lu Dongchao's eyes, Li Tianlan and the other 4 were weak people who had the potential to become stronger. So as long as they were willing to be used by him, he was willing to forgive them. But unfortunately, in order to maintain his ridiculous pride and backbone, they chose to refuse. If I can't use them, I might as well just cripple them, lest they have a headache when they grow up. What was more, this guy in front of him had insulted his family. You deserve to die. Lu Dongchao took a deep breath and calmed himself down completely. He stared into Li Tianlan's eyes and said in a cold tone, "My life is here. Come and take it if you can." Li Tianlan's tone was calm and tit for tat. Very good. Lu Dongchao's tone became more and more dangerous. Facing the silver spear in Li Tianlan's hand, his body was completely relaxed, but his eyes were unprecedentedly focused. Li Tianlan's expression gradually became serious. He was not afraid of a young fire-flaming realm expert with the inheritance of an invincible realm expert, but if he didn't show some trump cards, it would not be easy to win. Lu Dongchao looked at Li Tianlan's serious expression and sneered. His completely relaxed fingers suddenly bent and flicked gently. His fingers flicked in the air, but it was like flicking on a real thing, making a crisp sound. A seemingly weak but extremely hot flame suddenly appeared between his fingers and quickly spread to his whole palm. Gas turned into fire. This was the fire-flaming realm. If the ice-condensing realm was to condense the moisture in the air into hard ice, then the fire-flaming realm was to evaporate all the moisture in the air in an instant. In the extremely dry air, one could use the powerful physical strength and extreme speed to rub the air and ignite a flame in the air. In this realm, an expert in the ice-condensing realm could almost crush him, let alone an expert in the chi-controlling realm. The flame in Lu Dongchao's palm grew more and hotter. The flame gradually changed its state with the flicking of his fingers and finally became a big knife completely condensed by flames. Fire-flaming soldier. Compared with the experts who had just entered the fire-flaming realm, this was obviously a step further and had completely stabilized in the fire-flaming realm. Lu Dongchao looked at Li Tianlan with a mocking expression. But in Li Tianlan's eyes, he could not see any fear or panic, even the dignified light in his eyes disappeared, leaving only concentration and depth. Lu Dongchao held the fire knife and suddenly looked up. In his sight was the ceiling of the maze, which was nearly 5 or 6 meters high. But at this moment, there was a drop of water falling rapidly above him. In an instant, there was only this drop of water left in Lu Dongchao's pupils. It was pure, transparent, full and smooth in shape, and crystal clear. There was endless awe-inspiring sword intent bursting from the top of his head. In an instant, in the extremely dry air, the water in the maze fell like rain. Ice-condensing realm. And it was the unprecedented ice-condensing realm. In a trance, this realm seemed to have surpassed the ice-condensing realm, but it did not enter the fire-flaming realm. Instead, it went to another unknown path. What kind of monster did I provoke? Lu Dongchao muttered to himself in his heart. Out of the corner of his eye, the silver light had already lit up. Li Tianlan took the initiative to attack. Just now he was in the chi-controlling realm, but now he directly entered the ice-condensing realm without meditation. He lifted the human emperor and smashed it at Lu Dongchao. The air shook fiercely. As the human emperor was raised, the drop of water that had not yet fallen directly condensed along the trajectory of the human emperor. The awe-inspiring sword intent moved in the air, making everyone's expression change completely. Ah, ah, ah. Lu Dongchao roared with all his might. In an instant, the fire broadsword in his hand completely disintegrated, and a large amount of flames emerged from all over his body. Around the human emperor, countless water droplets that had condensed together fell one by one, smoothly and cheerfully, but each droplet was like a sword, sharp, cold, and fierce. The human emperor came crashing down on the water drops with great force. Lu Dongchao roared wildly, and the flames emerging from his body became denser and denser. But the water drops kept falling, and each drop of water could put out a flame. The flames on Lu Dongchao's body could not rush out, but the water drops falling from the human emperor were endless. Bang! The sound of the weapon hitting the flesh was dull and clear. Lu Dongchao raised his hands high, and the flames all over his body spread wildly. The fire in his hands kept jumping, and he forcibly caught Li Tianlan's spear. Lu Dongchao's body shook violently. Li Tianlan's strength and speed were simply incredible. This was not the strength that someone in the ice-condensing realm should have. He had fought back with all his strength, but at this time, he had a ridiculous feeling that he could not take a second shot from Li Tianlan. A horrible idea rose in his mind. Lu Dongchao's face turned pale and he exclaimed, "Wind and thunder veins. You have wind and thunder veins." Li Tianlan stood steadily in front of Lu Dongchao, holding the spear with one hand and constantly pressing it down. His spear body was gently trembling in a regular pattern, and a large number of water drops continued to gather and whistle toward him along with the slight trembling of the human emperor. There were already countless water balls floating around the human emperor and Li Tianlan. "Now kneel down for me, and I can pretend that nothing happened." It was still the same words and the same request. But when Li Tianlan said it just now, everyone felt that he was overestimating himself. But now, Lu Dongchao obviously hadn't lost yet, but Li Tianlan's words gave others an irresistible majesty when they heard it. "Big brother." Lu Dongyu, who had been watching the battle, finally reacted. She screamed and rushed directly to Li Tianlan. The unprecedented ice-condensing realm, the once-in-a-century wind and thunder veins, the freshman in front of her was too strange. She felt that it was necessary to join hands with her big brother to deal with him. Swish, swish, swish. As soon as Lu Dongyu took a step forward, the sound of water suddenly sounded beside her. A few ice walls abruptly appeared beside her, completely blocking her path. An ice sword condensed from water floated around Li Badian. Within the ice wall that trapped Lu Dongyu, the sword intent gradually turned from vague to clear. Li Badian, who was as thin as a bamboo pole and looked so weak that everyone ignored him, took a step forward and said loudly, "Li Taishu, the great void sword master of Mount Shu, is willing to learn the unique skill of the Lu family." As he spoke, the ice wall that trapped Lu Dongyu instantly shattered. Countless ice swords directly enveloped Lu Dongyu's entire body. There was a fire burning on Lu Dongyu's body. Countless ice swords instantly disappeared in the fire, but the cold sword energy was still flying around her body. A large number of ice swords disappeared from existence, as if merging into the void. This was the unique skill of Mount Shu. Chapter 22. Great Void Sword Master, Li Taishu. The expressions of everyone in the flames of war changed. Although this name was in the list of the top 10 young experts, the value of this name itself was much higher than that of the top 10 experts. How convincing could a list of the top 10 experts, which was ranked every year, be? But for hundreds of years, Great Void Sword Master of Mount Shu had become an expert of the invincible realm, which was more convincing than any list. Lu Dongchao was vaguely suppressed. Lu Dongyu was trapped by Li Taishu. It seemed that Tan Shilai was the only one in the entire flames of war who could contribute and be of great help. Tan Shilai hesitated slightly. The freshmen in front of him were beyond his expectation. His intuition told him that he'd better not provoke them. But as the third in command of the flames of war, how could he keep a foothold in the Sky Academy in the future if he fled at this time? He gritted his teeth and took a sudden step forward with flames flashing around him. One step before, it was midsummer. One step after, it was cold winter. The dense ice sword seemed to have been waiting for Tanshilai's action. Before his feet touched the ground, at least hundreds of ice swords had lined up in a seemingly mysterious formation and rushed toward him. It was one of the three most basic and esoteric sword movements in Jade Pool. Prairie Fire Sword Storm. The dense ice swords crazily attacked the flames around Tanshilai. The sword rain was like ice, but the sword momentum was like fire, never stopping. Ning Qianqing's tone was cold and fierce. If you dare to move again, I'll stay here with you today until I die. Help! Are you all dead? Tanshilai, who was trapped in the sword rain, was exasperated. He ignored Ning Qianqing and suddenly roared at the members of the Flames of War who were watching the show. The elites of the Flames of War standing stupidly outside the battlefield were all stunned. More than half of them subconsciously wanted to help. Wang Yuetong from the Wang family of Beihai is willing to compete with senior brothers. Wang Yuetong narrowed her eyes and took a step forward, smiling innocently. As soon as she said that, not only the elites of the Flames of War turned pale, but also the faces of the three experts of the fire-flaming realm on the battlefield suddenly changed. The Wang family of Beihai. Only those who really came into contact with the upper class of Zhongzhou State knew what these four words meant. There were quite a few wealthy families in Zhongzhou State, and the Lu family in Huading was one of them. But compared with the Wang family of Beihai, to put it bluntly, the current Lu family was only qualified to carry shoes for the Wang family at most. Even when the invincible realm expert of the Lu family was alive, he was far inferior to the Wang family. Zhongzhou State had been founded for hundreds of years. The Wang family had only been glorious for a few hundred years. Who wouldn't be afraid of such a family? He had always heard that Princess Yuetong, the demoness of the Wang family, was in Beihai province. Why did she suddenly come to the Sky Academy? Wasn't this King scam? Everyone from the Flames of War froze on the spot. No one dared to move. Lu Dongchao was depressed, but he kept the flame on his body. The water balls around him were still floating, and the water drops were like swords, falling endlessly. Such an incredible ice-condensing realm made him feel hopeless. Right now, he really needed help, but he also understood that his subordinates wouldn't be able to help. The Lu family was an important part of another superpower in Zhongzhou State. As the core of the younger generation of the Lu family, he was not afraid of the Wang family. But how could his subordinates dare to make a move under the Wang family's name? On the other side, the sword energy around Lu Dongyu was flying faster and faster. All the ice swords seemed to be in a state of illusory and real. They were ethereal and came and went like the wind. The moment Wang Yuetong spoke, Lu Dongyu was directly shocked by the four words, Wang family of Beihai. Li Beidian seized the opportunity, and countless seemingly illusory ice swords directly cut numerous wounds of different depths on her body. Dongyu. Lu Dongchao was anxious, and the flame around him suddenly shook slightly. Several raindrops suddenly passed through the flame and fell on him. Water was the softest thing, but at this time, it was like the sharpest blade. A few drops of water fell on Lu Dongchao's arm, and suddenly his whole arm was penetrated, dripping with blood. Still not willing to kneel down and admit defeat? Li Tianlan looked at Lu Dongchao coldly. He was still holding the spear down with one hand, while Lu Dongchao was still holding the human emperor with both hands. For the time being, Lu Dongchao couldn't lift it up, and Li Tianlan couldn't press it down either. They seemed to be in a confrontation. But Li Tianlan, who had the wind and thunder veins, had almost endless physical strength. How long could Lu Dongchao hold on? Admit defeat? Dream on. Lu Dongchao gritted his teeth and roared. The raindrops fell on his arm. Under the sharp pain, he subconsciously loosened the hand holding the human emperor. Supported by one hand, Li Tianlan kept exerting force, and Lu Dongchao's whole body bent. Really? Li Tianlan asked coldly. The human emperor trembled slightly, and the water ball floating around him shook slightly. Another drop of rain fell from the ceiling. Then, more and more raindrops fell from the ceiling. This time, the water drops were no longer round. Each drop of water became the shape of a sword, delicate, sharp, with indescribable elegance and the breath of death. Sword rain. This is the sword rain, the real sword rain. Wang Yuedong's eyes were fanatical. Looking at the falling raindrops, she kept muttering to herself. Brother Li is so powerful. Yu Qingyan was also fascinated. She glanced at Wang Yuetong and whispered, Sister Yuetong, what realm is Brother Li in now? Is it condensing ice? Or is it flaming fire? Is he hiding his strength? Wang Yuetong thought for a while and whispered with some uncertainty, his real realm should still be the qi-controlling realm, but he should have entered the ice-condensing realm, or even a higher realm. He just fell and recultivated again. He has been to that realm, so it's completely possible to temporarily forcibly improve himself to that state. It's okay to do it once or twice, but if it happens too often, it will affect his foundation, and he has no hope of reaching the invincible realm. Recultivation? Yu Qingyan's eyes were full of little stars, and she felt dizzy. Why would anyone choose to recultivate? Maybe it's because he had to. It's possible that he was possessed by the devil, or his martial arts were destroyed. Only recultivation can explain the fact that once he enters a new realm, he is in the peak state. Well, some special medicine can also achieve this effect, but he didn't take it. Moreover, his fighting style in the ice-condensing realm is obviously rich in experience, which can only be explained by him having been in this realm. Wang Yuetong chuckled, looked at Li Tianlan's back, and murmured to herself, Qingyan, I think I'm in love. I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to kneel down? The rain of swords fell on Li Tianlan's head, flying around him. Li Tianlan frowned, looked at Lu Dongchao in front of him, and said in an increasingly calm tone. In your dreams. Lu Dongchao's eyes were extremely solemn, and he gnashed his teeth. Failure. This word came to his mind again. What was the consequence of failure? Lu Dongchao dared not think about it, but he had to think about it. Once he failed, this maneuver would be a mess, the morale of the flames of war would be scattered, and they might even face the risk of disbanding. His years of effort would be ruined in the hands of the freshmen in front of him. How could he accept such a result? In any case, he could not accept it. A fire-flaming realm expert lost to an ice-condensing realm expert. Why did this happen? Why? His breathing became heavier and heavier, and his eyes gradually became blood-red. Li Tianlan looked at him quietly, and suddenly narrowed his eyes and smiled. You can't do it more than 3 times. I've asked you one last time, and I'm very happy. Your answer is exactly what I want. Boom! All the water balls floating around him suddenly exploded. The water swords above his head also fell. Go to hell! Lu Dongchao roared with all his strength, and there were large patches of fire rising from his body. In an instant, he had tried his best to stand up under the suppression of human emperor. He did stand up. But he didn't stand up, but flew up. As he exerted his strength upward, Li Tianlan did the same. Li Tianlan exerted strength in his arms and directly lifted Lu Dongchao up with a spear. Lu Dongchao's body hung on the head of human emperor's spear, and he felt unprecedented humiliation. A large number of water droplets and rain swords crazily hit his body. The fire around him was getting weaker and weaker, and in the blink of an eye, he was already covered with blood. Brother! Under the great void sword intent, Lu Dongyu screamed in despair. But Lu Dongchao did not respond, and he was completely disheartened. Li Tianlan lifted Lu Dongchao, narrowed his eyes, and chuckled. How do you feel? If you can survive, you can be an ordinary person in the future. A large number of water droplets suddenly shook, and in an instant, all the water droplets turned into sword rain, rushing toward Lu Dongchao. The sword intent rushed into the sky like a torrent. Student, please show mercy. An impatient voice filled with ice-cold anger and killing intent rang out. Li Tianlan only felt that human emperor became lighter, and the next second, Lu Dongchao, who was on the spearhead, had been held in the arms of a figure who suddenly appeared. The torrent-like sword rain hit the figure who suddenly appeared, bringing with it a large number of flickering fire. The fire was dissipating. The sword rain was evaporating. The fire rose and extinguished at will. An expert at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. For the first time, Li Tianlan's cold or gentle eyes showed a trace of naked and undisguised killing intent. The human emperor trembled slightly in his hand, and a large number of sword rain swirled around his body like a crystal-clear belt of light. "Who are you?" His voice was cold, but the fighting intent in his eyes was completely burning. "I'm Lu Xiuwei, the deputy director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy." Lu Xiuwei held Lu Dongchao's body and quickly checked his injuries. A cold killing intent flashed in his eyes, and then he looked at Li Tianlan and said with a fake smile. He looked about 50 years old, short, thin, and slightly bald. His personal image could be described as a mess, but when he stood there casually, there was a kind of momentum that no one could ignore. "What's your relationship with Lu Dongchao?" Li Tianlan took a deep breath, and his killing intent seemed to be completely restrained. But at this moment, he gave people a more dangerous feeling than when he was full of killing intent. "This is my nephew, classmate. You hurt Dongchao like this. In any case, you must give me an explanation." Lu Xiuwei was still smiling, but his smile gradually became cold. "I can't kill people in the maneuver. Except that I can't kill people, everything I do is right. Director Lu, your nephew is not dead. What explanation do you want?" Li Tianlan asked lightly. "I'm here today, not as the deputy director of the teaching office, and I don't care about your maneuver. I'm Lu Dongchao's uncle, and I want an explanation from you as his uncle." "What can you do?" Lu Xiuwei said with a gloomy look. A wave of hostility suddenly rose from the depths of Li Tianlan's heart. He narrowed his eyes and sneered, "You mean that you don't need to give us an explanation when Lu Dongchao robbed us of the credit counting table, and you don't need to give us an explanation when he ordered his men to attack us. But now that I heard him, I need to give you an explanation. That's the content of the maneuver, and it has nothing to do with me. What explanation do I need to give you?" Lu Xiuwei waved his hand and said expressionlessly. "Good, very good." Li Tianlan was so angry that he laughed. "He hurt us, and that's the content of the maneuver. I hurt him, so I need to give you an explanation. The Sky Academy has such a deputy director, and it's a disgrace to the entire academy. I've said that I'm not standing in front of you as the deputy director, but as Dongchao's uncle. I want an explanation from you. Classmate, if you don't give it, don't blame me for taking it myself." Lu Xiuwei sneered and stared at Li Tianlan with undisguised killing intent. "What explanation do you want?" Li Tianlan looked at Lu Xiuwei, and his tone became calm again. Lu Xiuwei made it clear that he was shameless to the end and unreasonable because of his strength. It was useless for him to say anything more. "The silver spear in your hand is destined to be my nephew Dongchao's. Why don't you give it to me as compensation? Besides, you can cut off one of your arms, and I'll let it go. Of course, if Dongchao wants to take revenge on you in the future, it's your personal grudge, and it has nothing to do with me. What do you think, classmate?" Lu Xiuwei's face softened, and he said with a smile. In the face of such a shameless person, Li Tianlan was not even interested in being angry. Without raising his eyelids, he said loudly, "I refuse. Classmate, I have to remind you that young people who don't know when to stop will eventually die a terrible death." Lu Xiuwei laughed, and his eyes became more and more greedy as he stared at the silver spear. "Now that it's come to this, I can only move forward. Whoever asks me to retreat, I'll kill him." The silver spear in Li Tianlan's hand shook, and he said gently, "Including the deputy director of the Sky Academy. Boy, you're courting death by insulting the deputy director of the Sky Academy." Lu Xiuwei flew into a rage. He raised his hands, handed Lu Dongchao's body to a member of the Flames of War, and directly rushed toward Li Tianlan. At the exit of the maze. In an instant, the fire became brighter and hotter than ever. Lu Xiaowei seemed to have turned into a huge fireball. In the air, he swooped down toward Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan raised his human emperor, and his pupils reflecting the fire were dead silent. The sword rain, which was like a belt of light around him, rushed toward Lu Xiaowei without reservation. In the increasingly hot and dry air, there were still drops of water falling from the ceiling. The water was endless, and the cold light was shining. Chapter 23. The fire did not go out. The water kept dripping. The space at the exit of the maze became hot and humid. With Lu Xiaowei as the center, the fire from all directions gathered toward him and then tried to expand. Meanwhile, the rain of swords continued to rain down on the light screen formed by the flames. The sword chi was awe-inspiring and seemed to be endless. It was like a belt of light, like a swimming dragon, like a torrent. Fire and sword rain were everywhere. The fire was roaring, the sword rain was humming, and the water and fire were opposing each other, forming an extremely gorgeous picture. Each of the 4 realms of martial arts was divided into 3 stages: the initial stage, the stabilization stage, and the peak stage that was about to break through. Lu Xiaowei was at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. Even among the experts of the same realm as him, he was one of the best. It was impossible for a person with average combat strength to be the deputy director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy. Lu Xiaowei and his nephew Lu Dongchao were both at the fire-flaming realm, but the stabilization stage and the peak stage were 2 completely different concepts. The further one went in the cultivation of martial arts, the greater the gap would be. It was beyond everyone's expectation that Li Tianlan could defeat Lu Dongchao. But now, he was not at a disadvantage in the face of Lu Xiaowei, which made everyone feel complicated. Even Li Beidian and Ning Qianqing got rid of their opponents and stood in front of Wang Yuetong, watching the battle in front of them with solemn expressions. This is bad. I'm afraid Tianlan is no match for this old guy. Ning Qianqing stared at the battlefield of water and fire and said in a low voice. Then stop talking nonsense. Go and help. Li Beidian raised the ice sword in his hand again and said without hesitation. Help? You'll have to get through me first. Lu Dongyu took a step forward and stared at Li Beidian in a resentful tone. The great void sword intent was unpredictable. In the short fight with Li Taishu, she did not suffer a big loss because of her high realm, but she was embarrassed by countless sword energy. Her carefully modified camouflage clothes were cut one after another, and her snow-white skin was dripping with blood. Although it did not affect her appearance much, it was a great shame for Lu Dongyu. As she spoke, Tan Shilai stood beside Lu Dongyu without hesitation, and then the rest of the people of the Flames of War took a step forward at the same time. It was like a repeat of what had happened a few minutes ago. At that time, it was Li Beidian and the others who stopped Lu Dongyu from saving Lu Dongchao. But now, it was Lu Dongyu and the others who stopped Li Beidian from helping Li Tianlan. Li Beidian narrowed his eyes. He seemed to have turned into a sharp sword, sharp and threatening. Don't worry about me. Around him, the dense rain of swords fell faster and faster, hitting the curtain of fire in front of Lu Xiaowei. But the fire around Lu Xiaowei was getting stronger and stronger. Before the rain of swords could get close to the fire, they were completely evaporated. But Li Tianlan's expression was still calm. You guys find a chance to leave first. This old guy can't keep me. Young man, you're quite arrogant. Since that's the case, I'll give you something fun. Lu Xiaowei grinned hideously and took a step forward. The fire around him suddenly shook violently and then spread. The fire around Lu Xiaowei was weak, but the temperature was getting hotter. The rain of swords could not touch him, but the spreading fire turned into 4 streams of fire and rushed toward Li Tianlan. The unique skill of the Lu family. Shaking all directions. Lu Tianqing, an expert of the invincible realm of the Lu family, could be said to be the representative of late bloomers in martial arts. Lu Tianqing was not talented and barely entered the fire-flaming realm at the age of 35. But after entering the fire-flaming realm, he seemed to be suddenly enlightened and made rapid progress. 2 years later, he entered the thunder-shocking realm. At the age of 42, he had become an expert of the invincible realm. Although Lu Tianqing had been dead for only 10 years, some of his unique skills were still famous. Shaking all directions was one of the unique skills that made Lu Tianqing famous. For streams of fire surged and the air became blurred and twisted under the high temperature. Lu Xiaowei was full of killing intent and rushed toward Li Tianlan along with the 4 streams of fire. The streams of fire rushed toward him. The moisture in the air seemed to have evaporated completely. The rain of swords around Li Tianlan was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye, but his eyes were still calm. The human emperor was shaking violently. The rain of swords fought against the streams of fire around him. Lu Xiaowei, who was still surrounded by flames, strode toward Li Tianlan. 5 meters. 3 meters. Li Tianlan suddenly moved forward. The violently shaking human emperor pierced Lu Xiaowei's chest like a silver lightning. There was a sudden chill in the hot air. The rain of swords turned into ice and quickly gathered around Li Tianlan. In less than a second, Li Tianlan seemed to be covered with a thin layer of ice. The endless rain of swords disappeared in an instant. In an instant, there was only silver light in the raging fire. The whistling energy mixed with broken ice appeared. The stream of fire in front of Li Tianlan was directly blown aside, but the silver spear was still moving forward. Riding the wind, breaking ice, and extinguishing the fire. Wherever the silver spear went, there was nothing it could not break. Bang! The rapidly moving human emperor was tightly held by a skinny hand. Lu Xiaowei appeared in front of Li Tianlan and sneered. The wind and thunder veins are really terrifying. But your realm is too low. It's not interesting. His hands were surrounded by flames, and the hot temperature was directly transmitted to Li Tianlan's hands through the metal body of the human emperor. Give it to me. Lu Xiaowei suddenly shouted and raised his hands. The 50-kilogram human emperor was lifted up by him. Li Tianlan, who was holding the human emperor, was also lifted up by him. The unique skill of the Lu family. Resisting the cauldron. He concentrated all his energy in his limbs and burst out the most terrifying power in the shortest time. He could carry a 500-kilogram cauldron, let alone the 100-kilogram human emperor. Lu Xiaowei held one end of the spear head with both hands and directly lifted Li Tianlan above his head. The flames spread up along the spear and reached Li Tianlan's hands in the blink of an eye. Li Tianlan gathered water drops in his hands and barely blocked the flames. But the other 3 streams of fire were still hitting his back, trying to completely swallow the thin ice on his body. With Lu Xiaowei's current realm, when the thin ice on his body broke, he would die. Such a terrible temperature was enough to completely burn his body into ashes in a second. This old dog not only wanted to take the human emperor, but also wanted to kill people. As the deputy director of the Sky Academy, where did he get the courage to kill a student of the Sky Academy in the entrance maneuver? Let go of me. Lu Xiaowei smiled cruelly and looked at Li Tianlan as if he was looking at a dead man. He held the human emperor and kept shaking his hands. The terrible power directly passed through the spear to Li Tianlan's body. Blood flowed down from the corner of Li Tianlan's mouth and fell on his hands, dyeing the spear red. Tianlan. Li Baitian's expression changed, and the sword intent flashed in his eyes. This can't go on. Senior brother Tianlan doesn't seem to have any decent unique skill. He is only relying on his own strength and realm. He can't hold on any longer. Wang Yuetong frowned and said. The so-called unique skill, to put it bluntly, was the most thorough use of one's own strength and combat capability. To be exact, it was similar to unique skills. When there was a big gap between the 2 sides, the strength would naturally crush everything. But if the 2 sides were on par, the one who mastered the more powerful unique skill would be the final winner. Lu Xiaowei's unique skill was taught by Lu Tianqing, an expert of the invincible realm. But now Li Tianlan was relying on brute force. There was no doubt that he would win or lose. If he continued to hold on, it was a question whether he could survive. Swish. Before Wang Yuedong's voice died away, Ning Qianqing had already taken a sudden step forward. Countless ice swords surrounded him and flattened out in a second. The ice swords were cold and the sword intent was like fire. Prairie fire sword storm. Countless ice swords rushed toward Lu Xiuwei, but were stopped by Tan Shilai. Ning Qianqing looked indifferent. Without retreating, he rushed toward Tan Shilai at full speed. His eyes seemed to be burning at this moment. Every move he made showed his determination at all costs. He was an officer of the Border Control Corps. He came to the Sky Academy in the name of learning, but his code name was Man of Sacrifice. He was not afraid of death, so what was there for him to be afraid of? Buzz, 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 the sword intent in Li Baitian's eyes seemed to have completely condensed into a substance. The exquisite ice swords around him stopped and trembled slightly in front of him. Countless erratic sword intents quickly gathered together, and the ice swords gradually turned from crystal clear to lustrous white. The surging coldness continued to concentrate on the ice swords in front of Li Baidian. The aura of the exquisite ice swords grew sharper and sharper, and Li Baitian's momentum kept rising. His swords grew whiter and whiter. His face grew paler and paler. Blood flowed down from Li Baitian's eyes, but he didn't feel it. He just stared at Lu Dongyu, who looked terrible in front of him, and said calmly, "Get out of my way." This sword strike was really a fight to the death. Everyone could see that Li Baidian was still unable to completely control this sword, but he still used it in a situation where he could not. This was enough to show his determination to fight with his life on the line. Ning Qianqing was fighting desperately. So was Li Baidian. All for Li Tianlan. The exquisite ice swords in front of him grew whiter and whiter. As the coldness gathered, it seemed to have begun to bloom a pure milky white light. The second move of Great Void Sword. All swords in one. At this moment, even Wang Yuetong and Yu Qingyan's blood was boiling. They took a step forward at the same time. Yu Qingyan stretched out her white and tender hands. The color of her palms changed, and a thin layer of ice condensed in her hands. Under the thin layer of ice, her palms had become a strange cyan color. Wang Yuetong was silent, but her body was surrounded by frost. Behind her, a huge sword 1/2 meter wide and 2 or 3 meters long was also taking shape. Ice and fire, the huge sword and the girl. At this moment, Wang Yuedong's ponytail directly flew up, and her long black hair fluttered behind her. Princess Yuetong, who had always given people a sense of enchantment, looked indescribably domineering and powerful with the huge sword behind her, full of the demeanor of a king. Little guys are very loyal. Since you don't want to leave, then don't leave. When I get rid of this guy, none of you can escape. Lu Xiuwei cackled and looked at Li Tianlan, who held the human emperor tightly, with an extremely vicious look in his eyes. Baidian, you go first. I have a way to get out. Trust me this once. Li Tianlan was still held up in the air by Lu Xiuwei. The tremendous force hit him again and again. His injuries were getting more and more serious, but his tone was still calm as a glacier that never melted. Li Baitian's eyebrows moved, but his face was expressionless. Why did you team up with me if you don't trust me? Li Tianlan frowned, and his tone was a little hurried. If you want to leave, we'll leave together. It has nothing to do with whether you trust me or not. Give me a minute, and I'll go help you after I get rid of this woman. Li Baitian's tone was calm. Together? Li Tianlan gently raised the corner of his mouth, looked at Lu Xiuwei with undisguised killing intent in his eyes, and said, "Okay, let's go together." He held the human emperor with both hands, and all his joints shook at the same time. At this moment, the innate divine power given to him by the thunder vein burst out without reservation. He stabbed the spear straight down. Lu Xiuwei frowned, and his hand holding the spear slipped a little, and the spear tip suddenly moved a few centimeters toward his abdomen. The sharp strength qi almost pierced through his skin, causing his entire abdomen to feel a burning pain. Lu Xiuwei's expression did not change, and he snorted coldly. He put more force in his palm, trying to push the human emperor back. As soon as he put more force, Lu Xiaowei was shocked, because Li Tianlan did not resist at all on the other end of the silver spear, and directly flew backward with his force. The spear head suddenly shrank in a violent tremor, and the silver spear was shortening. As Li Tianlan withdrew the spear blades on both sides slid directly to his palm. Despicable boy! Lu Xiaowei shouted angrily, and subconsciously loosened his palm. Li Tianlan was in the air, rising higher and higher with the force of Lu Xiaowei's push. The human emperor stretched again in the air, and he held the spear in his hand, breaking the wall with one thrust. Without any suspense, a big hole was broken in the ceiling. Li Tianlan's figure directly rushed out of the hole, and instantly disappeared. Want to leave? Stay here. Lu Xiaowei's face turned red. With his strength in the fire-flaming realm, he let a boy in the ice-condensing realm escape. It was ridiculous. Flames spread out from his body, and a large number of falling black bricks were directly burned to ashes in the flames. He also rushed out of the hole, chasing after Li Tianlan, and disappeared. Go after him. Li Badian was stunned for a moment, and then he jumped and directly chased after him. But in a few seconds, Li Tianlan and Lu Xiaowei, one running and the other chasing, were nowhere to be seen. East. Li Badian thought for a moment and said decisively. Out of the maze, all the way to the east, they could reach the end of the maneuver. In Li Badian's view, since Li Tianlan was no match for Lu Xiaowei, he must go all the way to the east. As long as he reached the end, with the protection of the headmaster, Lu Xiaowei could do nothing to him. The others nodded and quickly went east. But in fact, Li Tianlan went all the way to the north. He seemed to be easy to talk to, but if someone really provoked him, he would be more vengeful than anyone else. The shamelessness and arrogance of the Lu family had completely infuriated him, and it was obvious that they wanted to kill him. In any case, he had to teach the whole Lu family a lesson. You don't let me live well. I'll let you die a horrible death. Li Tianlan was extremely fast. He rushed out of the maze and disappeared in the woods in a flash. Lu Xiaowei, who followed him closely, could only see a vague shadow. Lu Xiaowei sneered and followed him without hesitation, with the same determination to kill. Li Tianlan was one of the most outstanding freshmen in recent years. Since he had provoked him, if he was not completely killed today, the whole Lu family would not have peace in the future. He had to kill him. The two rushed into the woods one after the other, going deeper and deeper in the woods. 500 meters. 1,000 meters. 2,000 meters. Lu Xiaowei, who had been following Li Tianlan closely, suddenly stopped. He furrowed his brows and turned his skinny and short body, looking around vigilantly. He was here. 1 second ago, he could still feel that Li Tianlan was here, but the next second, Li Tianlan seemed to have disappeared. Lu Xiaowei frowned and looked around. There was no one in the east. There was no one in the west. There was no one in the north. There was no one in the south. Lu Xiaowei turned his head, and his pupils suddenly contracted. In his sight, on a thick tree less than 20 meters away from him, Li Tianlan was standing there quietly, holding the human emperor in his hand and looking down at him condescendingly, as if he was looking at a dead man. Lu Xiaowei's heart sank for no reason, and it directly sank to the bottom. Li Tianlan was just a nonentity who had not entered the fire-flaming realm, but his fearless attitude made Lu Xiaowei feel extremely uneasy. He took a deep breath, looked at Li Tianlan, and reached out to him, saying slowly, "Give me your weapon and break one of your arms, and I will let you go today." What do you think? Li Tianlan's mouth curled up into a meaningful smile. He narrowed his eyes, looked at Lu Xiaowei, and said with a smile, "You kill yourself now, and I will let the Lu family go in the future." What do you think? Arrogant boy. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Lu Xiaowei flew into a rage and was about to pounce on Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan laughed and said in a cold tone, "Fulfill my wish? You had enough fun in the maze, and now it's my turn." He suddenly stamped on the trunk with one foot, and all the nearby trees seemed to shake violently. In Lu Xiuwei's suddenly contracted pupils, countless trees shook at the same time, and thousands of leaves fell from the treetops, rushing toward him. The whole forest seemed to be filled with sword energy. It was sharp, cold, and ruthless. Tens of thousands of leaves fluttered majestically, completely enveloping the entire forest and blocking out the sun. Lu Xiuwei was surrounded by flames, and he attacked with all his strength. A staircase of ice condensed by water vapor suddenly appeared in front of Lu Xiuwei. Before he could react, a silver spear suddenly appeared and pierced his head. There was no sign, and there was no way to guard against it. Lu Xiuwei instinctively took a big step back, looking terrified. Li Tianlan seemed to cross a distance of more than 10 meters with one step, and stood on the ice staircase in the air. The silver spear, with the light of death, was elegant and charming. "You deserve to die," Li Tianlan said with a smile, and suddenly raised the human emperor. In the forest, leaves fluttered like rain, whistling back and forth, covering the sky and the sun, blocking all the outside world's sight. Lu Xiuwei stared at Li Tianlan with a pale face, and said nothing. At that moment, as Li Tianlan raised the silver spear, ice staircases appeared everywhere within dozens of meters around the two of them. Li Tianlan's figure was like a ghost, constantly moving on the surrounding ice staircases. For a moment, Lu Xiuwei seemed to be surrounded by Li Tianlan. He was everywhere. A 5,000-word chapter. Is it big? The new book released on the 2nd, today is the 11th. 9 days, 100,000 words. It shouldn't be slow. Chapter 24. As the direct descendant of an invincible realm expert, everything Lu Xiuwei learned came from his father, Lu Tianqing. For anyone who was interested in martial arts, this was an unimaginable wealth. As the most populous country in the world, Zhongzhou State had a population of 1.5 billion. But how many invincible realm experts were there among these 1.5 billion people? 4. There were only 4 invincible realm experts in the entire Zhongzhou State. Including the dead Lu Tianqing, there were no more than 5. But how many warriors were there in Zhongzhou State? There were thousands, millions, or even hundreds of millions of them. Few of them were lucky enough to be taught by an invincible realm expert. In this respect, Lu Xiuwei was absolutely lucky. His talent was not outstanding, even a little bad. But because he was Lu Tianqing's son, he became an expert at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. He could even have a glimpse of the thunder-shocking realm in his lifetime. All this was because of the solid foundation his father laid for him. And because of his good father, Lu Xiuwei could be regarded as an expert even among the experts at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. But it did not mean that Lu Xiuwei did not know the shortcomings of his family's martial arts. It took his father, Lu Tianqing, less than 10 years to enter the invincible realm from the fire-flaming realm. The unique skill of the Lu family was fierce in offense and steady in defense. It could be said that it was good at both offense and defense. But the unique skill of the Lu family had a shortcoming that everyone knew and couldn't ignore. That was, it was not fast enough. The Lu family's martial arts could attack and defend, but once it encountered an extremely agile opponent, it would become extremely passive. This shortcoming existed when Lu Tianqing was alive. At that time, people knew that the Lu family needed an extremely agile unique skill to make up for their shortcomings. But now, after so many years, the Lu family had never found a suitable body movement, so the shortcoming still existed. But everyone knew the shortcoming of the Lu family's martial arts, but the Lu family had always been intact for many years, which was enough to prove that even if the shortcoming existed, it would not be too serious. In the whole dark world, except for a few recognized top body movements, other body movements were extremely limited in restraining the Lu family's martial arts. At the beginning, Lu Xiuwei did not take Li Tianlan seriously. At the end of the maneuver, there were 2 big screens, on which most of the scenes inside and outside the maze could be seen. At this time, the leaders and teachers of the Sky Academy gathered there, watching the performances of the freshmen and the seniors. In the beginning, Lu Xiuwei was one of them. When Li Tianlan broke the wall 5 times, his figure had already appeared on the big screen, which made all the teachers of the Sky Academy remember this freshman. When he broke the wall 20 times, someone had already confirmed that he had the wind and thunder veins. But Lu Xiaowei still didn't take it seriously. Judging from the way Li Tianlan broke the wall, he was sure that he was a warrior who took the domineering way. The wind vein was indeed born with amazing speed, but what was the use of such speed without excellent body movements? From Li Tianlan breaking the wall to the subsequent battle, Lu Xiaowei saw it all, which made him even more certain that Li Tianlan was indeed a warrior who took the domineering path. There was no other possibility. Li Tianlan in the maze was exactly as he had predicted. But why did he seem to be a different person as soon as he entered the forest? Looking at the countless ice steps in front of him, Lu Xiaowei felt so suffocated that he almost vomited blood. The leaves in the sky whistled and formed a flock, completely blocking the view from above. Li Tianlan's body kept changing from one step to another as if he was teleporting, looking for the most comfortable angle of attack. Lu Xiaowei could not even see any sign of him exerting any strength. Li Tianlan could cross a distance of more than 10 meters with just a casual step and appear on another step. All the steps seemed to have become a part of his body, and he could go wherever he wanted. Lu Xiaowei felt a little cold inside. He knew that in order to see the situation of each student, nearly 10,000 cameras were installed in the maze, and a low-altitude satellite was placed over the forest. But now, with the leaves above, no one would see what he would experience next. Did he want to hide this body movement? What the hell is this body movement? Lu Xiaowei had dominated the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State for decades, but he had never seen this kind of body movement. Turning the void into ice, borrowing the strength of the ice stare, and achieving the effect of teleportation within a radius of dozens of meters should be the top unique skill in the entire dark world, but he had never heard of it before. Lu Xiaowei's heart kept sinking, but his voice was still calm. Although he was uneasy, he was still an expert at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. Facing an ice-condensing realm expert, he did not think he would lose. What body movement is this? I'll tell you before you die. Li Tianlan's figure kept changing on the countless ice steps, so his voice came from all directions, fragmented, with colder indifference than ice. You? Lu Xiaowei stood where he was with a sneer. Come on, I'll see how you kill me. Okay. Li Tianlan responded, and the silver spearhead arrived at the same time as his voice. The fierce qi roared recklessly. Lu Xiaowei's hands were on fire. He raised his hands to grab it, but the violently shaking spearhead stopped. Before the qi in front of him dissipated, Li Tianlan had appeared behind him and stabbed him with the spear again. Insignificant skill. Lu Xiaowei's body burst into flames. He did not hold back and attacked with all his strength. As long as he melted all the steps around him, how could Li Tianlan get close to him? Give me your body movement and weapon, and I'll let you go this time. The flames around Lu Xiaowei rippled, and his voice was cold and dignified. Although he said that this movement technique was just a small trick, the more he experienced the profoundness of this movement technique, the more his eyes burned. This was the movement technique that the Lu family had been dreaming of. You want it? Li Tianlan sneered. Come and get it yourself. Whoosh. Behind him, the silver spear whistled again and struck Lu Xiaowei's back with violent killing intent. Li Tianlan's attack suddenly became crazy. The spear, which weighed more than 50 kilograms, was waved with all his strength. Wherever the spear passed, there were harsh whistles and fierce qi. The ice steps around Lu Xiaowei collapsed and reassembled, and Li Tianlan's body appeared in all directions. Stabbing, sweeping, chopping, and flicking. Lu Xiaowei was surrounded by Li Tianlan, silver spears, and fierce energy qi. He attacked at close range. The spear was like a dragon. At this moment, Li Tianlan was unprecedentedly focused and crazy. His surging killing intent and fighting intent were released with every swing of the spear. It destroyed everything and tore everything apart. Crack. The ice steps in front of Lu Xiaowei were broken like tofu, and the shining spearhead stabbed his chest. Lu Xiaowei stepped back. Behind him, the endless sword rain and leaves enveloped him. As the flames burned, the silver spear hit his head again. Fast, dense, coherent, and domineering. In this state, Li Tianlan's every move seemed to carry a kind of real invincible momentum, which was irresistible and unstoppable. Wherever the silver spear passed, with the help of the wind and thunder veins, even Lu Xiaowei had to dodge temporarily. He kept retreating. Li Tianlan's attack became more and more crazy, and Lu Xiaowei couldn't find any chance to fight back. He kept retreating again and again. He could only defend. The flames in Lu Xiaowei's hands burned more and more fiercely, and his thin body retreated between two trees quietly. Li Tianlan's eyes were deathly still, and he chased after him without hesitation and chopped with the spear. "Go to hell!" Lu Xiaowei suddenly shouted, and the flames in his hands suddenly rose. In the blink of an eye, a big saber made of flames appeared in his hands. Lu Xiaowei took a step forward, got close to Li Tianlan, and chopped down with the saber. In close combat, long weapons were a complete burden. When Li Tianlan struck down with his spear, the spear would at most fall on his head, but his saber was enough to split him in half. Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows, held the spear with both hands, and suddenly raised it over his head. Crack! The silver spear was directly stuck between two trees because it was too long, and it couldn't move forward or backward. Lu Xiaowei's fire saber fiercely chopped on the silver spear. It was silent, but the water and fire were surging. Before the momentum of the saber was exhausted, Lu Xiaowei had already gathered his strength and exerted more force, from chopping down to chopping up. Now that the silver spear was stuck in the trees, how could the arrogant boy in front of him resist? With his hand, Lu Xiaowei seemed to see the scene of Li Tianlan's arm being chopped off. The scene really appeared. In the shrill scream, blood splashed, and an arm flew directly into the sky and fell to the ground. But it was not Li Tianlan's arm, but Lu Xiaowei's arm that held the saber. At that moment, Li Tianlan didn't defend at all. Naturally, there was defense in the martial arts he practiced, but the ultimate attack had long been engraved in his bones and blood, and had even become an instinct. Facing the saber from below, Li Tianlan directly put away the human emperor stuck in the trees. The 2-meter-long spear instantly shrank and became a metal tube less than 20 centimeters long. Li Tianlan held the metal tube with both hands and pulled it to both ends. In an instant, the sword light was like lightning. The metal tube was divided into two, and two slender sword blades directly popped out of the metal tube, and the horrible sword intent instantly broke out. It seemed to be the sword intent that had been sealed for a long time. It was distant, sharp, fierce, and unparalleled in the world. The two trees blocking the human emperor were directly and completely torn apart in less than a second, and the thick trunks were chopped into countless pieces flying in the air. Li Tianlan's sword light did not stop. He blocked Lu Xiaowei's fire saber with one sword and chopped off one of his arms with the other. Li Tianlan's eyes were cold, and he held two swords in his hands. The bright sword light danced wildly in the woods, and the horrible sword energy rose and fell like the tide, never stopping. At the same time, the east of the woods, the end of the maneuver. There were two big screens erected in front of Zhuang Huayang and other teachers of the Sky Academy, and almost everyone's eyes were focused on the second screen. The first screen was divided into countless small squares, showing the scenes of the freshmen in the maze, and there were many scenes of fighting. The second screen, which was responsible for showing the situation of the whole woods, had only one scene at this time. On the screen, dense leaves were flying in the air, and sword light rose from time to time, cutting the curtain-like leaves into pieces. Then, more leaves directly filled the gap. Lu Xiaowei's scream came through the screen, making everyone's scalp numb. Under the cover of the leaves, no one could see the real fighting scene, but everyone still watched carefully, trying to find some clues from the sword light that occasionally pierced the sky. In the whole battlefield, the trees within a radius of dozens of meters were all dancing wildly. Wherever the scream went, there would be sword light. Then, the trees were completely torn apart by the sword energy that seemed to have gone out of control. The trees fell down one by one and disappeared, but the sword light did not show any sign of decline. Instead, it became more and more fierce. No one could see the real fighting scene, but everyone's mind was filled with a scene that made their scalps numb. Just by looking at the momentum, it could be seen how miserable the battlefield covered by leaves was being torn by the sword light. Being in a mess was an understatement. "Headmaster, I'll go and have a look." In the oppressive silence, Gu Yunxia, who was sitting behind Zhuang Huayang, suddenly stood up with a determined look. "Sit down," Zhuang Huayang said calmly without raising his eyelids. But Gu Yunxia's expression was uncertain. Lu Xiaowei was her confidant in the Sky Academy, and the whole Lu family was one of the most important peripheral forces of Kunlun City. Now that Lu Xiaowei was in danger, she had to help him. "Headmaster, Director Xiaowei is highly respected in the Sky Academy and a very capable teacher. Now he has obviously suffered a loss. If we don't help him, it will disappoint his colleagues." Gu Yunxia hesitated and directly dragged all the teachers in, ready to use them to resist the pressure from Zhuang Huayang. "Disappoint?" Zhuang Huayang smiled noncommittally. "When Director Xiaowei attacked that freshman just now, why weren't you afraid that the freshman would be disappointed? When Director Xiaowei chased him into the woods, why didn't you do anything? When the deputy director of the school took the initiative to attack the freshman, ask for his weapon, and protect his relative, why didn't you do anything? Now you're telling me that you're disappointed? Yunxia, there's something wrong with your position. Remember, you're the director of teaching of the Sky Academy, not the protector of a deputy director. Sit down." Gu Yunxia's expression changed dramatically. She gritted her teeth and sat down without saying a word, her face livid. At this point, if she still insisted on saving Lu Xiaowei, she would really be going against Zhuang Huayang. She took a deep breath. She stared at the second screen with cold eyes, and the killing intent and doubt flashed in her eyes. How could Lu Xiaowei lose? What was happening beneath the leaves? How could he lose? Lu Xiaowei was also thinking about this. Now he could only dodge in embarrassment under Li Tianlan's double swords, and even the most basic counterattack was difficult for him. Before this, he never thought that Li Tianlan could be so horrible. He had such abundant sword intent, but he had to use a spear. Damn it. An unprecedented movement technique, a rare and strange weapon, and a relentless ruthlessness. These were all the reasons for his failure, but it was useless to think about them now. The pain of losing an arm spread throughout his body. Blood flowed, and his consciousness was a little blurred. His body was filled with pain and exhaustion, which made it impossible for him to fully concentrate. Even the flame on his body was gradually weakening. He lost. Lu Xiaowei knew very well that this time, he had suffered a crushing defeat. From today on, he might become the laughing stock of the whole Sky Academy. It was all because of the freshman in front of him. A strong hatred rose from his heart, so strong that he almost forgot about his hatred and exhaustion. He dodged the sword light in embarrassment, but his eyes gradually became firm. What kind of young man was he? In the fierce sword light, Lu Xiaowei seemed to see the rise of the Chosen One, all the way to the peak of the invincible realm. Kill him. If he didn't die, the whole Lu family would suffer a disaster in the future. He still had the power to strike. After this strike, even if he became the laughing stock of the Sky Academy, even if he had to recuperate for a long time, even if he fell to the ice-condensing realm, as long as he could kill him, everything would be worth it. The sword light danced. The fire around Lu Xiaowei suddenly flared up. The vast fire rose into the sky, as if the whole forest was burning. Lu Xiaowei's pupils suddenly became extremely fanatical. He looked at Li Tianlan with unrelieved hatred in his eyes and said ferociously, "Go to hell, bastard." The soaring flame kept condensing in his roar and finally condensed into a nearly solid long flame saber. "Go to hell." Lu Xiaowei roared and fiercely chopped down. The unique skill of the Lu family. 6 directions chop. Among all the moves that Lu Tianqing had learned in his life, 6 directions chop was definitely one of the most powerful moves. Countless strong enemies had been defeated by this move. The flame was dazzling. The long saber chopped down. The falling saber almost blocked all of Li Tianlan's retreat. Unavoidable. Li Tianlan suddenly looked up. In his pupils, there was a long saber condensed by flames, like the smile of the god of death. The closer the long saber was, the closer death was. He narrowed his eyes tightly, held the two swords, and suddenly strode forward, then took a small step to the left. His posture was extremely strange, but it was as fast as a shooting star. Front and back, left and right. Every time Li Tianlan took a step, his steps were different. In an instant, countless footprints were left in front of Lu Xiaowei. At this moment, Li Tianlan was still moving, but Lu Xiaowei was not sure whether Li Tianlan was moving forward, backward, left, or right. Lu Xiaowei's pupils instantly contracted to the limit. He finally knew what this set of body movements was. In an instant, his hatred for Li Tianlan deepened countless times. 10 years ago, a martial arts genius in Zhongzhou State successfully entered the Invincible Realm. In the second month after he entered the Invincible Realm, the genius directly challenged Lu Tianqing, one of the strongest experts in Zhongzhou State at that time. The two sides agreed to fight on Mount Taibai. Lu Tianqing, who had been in the Invincible Realm for many years, fought with the genius from morning to dusk. Lu Tianqing was killed in the fight and didn't even get out of Mount Taibai. Since then, the genius's body movements became one of the top unique skills in the dark world. It was precisely because of the restraint of that body movement on Lu Tianqing. The drawbacks of the unique martial arts skill of the Lu family were widely known. But now, that famous movement technique had actually appeared in the hands of the freshman opposite him. The long flame saber was still roaring and burning. Li Tianlan's body kept moving. At this time, Lu Xiaowei couldn't even be sure whether Li Tianlan was still moving. How could he lock on when his sight and feeling couldn't be sure? Boom! The long saber finally fell, but the falling point was ridiculously wrong. The blade directly chopped 2 meters away from Li Tianlan. Around them, the forest within dozens of meters suddenly burned wildly. Li Tianlan had taken another step and appeared in front of Lu Xiaowei. The long sword in his hand was against Lu Xiaowei's throat. Tao! Lu Xiaowei opened his mouth to shout, but Li Tianlan directly interrupted him. His eyes were cold, and with the arrogance and indifference of a winner, he said calmly, "Kneel." "How can you? I asked you to kneel." Lu Xiaowei finally recovered from the shock. He looked at Li Tianlan and suddenly burst into laughter. "Kneel? Dream on. You want me to kneel? So what if I don't kneel? You dared to cut off the arm of the deputy director of the Sky Academy, which is equal to hurting a teacher. This is disobedience. Let's see who can protect you." When some people talked about rules, they would talk about strength. But when they used strength, they would talk about rules. Li Tianlan smiled and narrowed his eyes. "You're the deputy director of the Sky Academy now? Didn't you appear as Lu Dongchao's uncle? Bastard. I've always been the deputy director of the Sky Academy, and that's my only identity. You'll be expelled from the school. You." Swish. Li Tianlan directly stabbed Lu Xiaowei's throat with his sword. The blade went through his throat, and blood dripped. It was straightforward. Lu Xiaowei suddenly opened his eyes, and a trace of chagrin and regret flashed in his eyes. But more than that, he couldn't believe it. You dare to kill, you're just Lu Dongchao's uncle. Why can't I dare to kill you?" Li Tianlan looked into Lu Xiaowei's eyes and said calmly. Bang! Lu Xiaowei's body fell to the ground, but he still opened his eyes wide and looked in Li Tianlan's direction. Chapter 25. In the battlefield that was torn apart by the sword light, Lu Xiaowei's body fell down among the broken wood and coke, raising a lot of smoke and dust. The sword went through his throat without leaving any room. Li Tianlan didn't know how Lu Xiaowei felt about such a way of death, but he felt wronged for him. An expert at the peak of the fire-flaming realm died in the hands of a nonentity who had just entered the chi-controlling realm. Lu Shuai probably never dreamed of such a way of death. The woods became quiet. Li Tianlan breathed gently and forcibly suppressed the taste of blood in his throat. After a long while, he moved his body and put the two swords in his hands together. The two slender long swords disappeared, and the human emperor once again became the inconspicuous metal tube, which he put into his sleeve. Lu Shuai's body was lying on the ground, covered by smoke and dust. The majestic deputy director of the Sky Academy was now in tatters, and he was as embarrassed as a stray dog. Li Tianlan reached out and closed his eyes, which he refused to close even if he died. He said to himself indifferently, "This is a good place with good feng shui, suitable for a long sleep. What are you dissatisfied with?" In the dust, Lu Shuai's eyes, which were forcibly closed, opened again, and there seemed to be a trace of unwillingness and regret in his dim pupils. This was probably a true death with everlasting regret. Li Tianlan twitched the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were indifferent. As he said to Lu Shuai in the maze, he had no way out. Hand over the human emperor? Break his own arm? Li Tianlan couldn't accept such a condition. If Lu Shuai had left him a way out in the maze, he might not have killed Lu Shuai today, not to mention what would happen in the future. When Lu Shuai blocked all the ways out for Li Tianlan, he also completely ruined his own life. "Damn you," Li Tianlan said again. Li Tianlan added. Then he stood up, identified the direction, and rushed toward the southeast end of the maneuver. Behind him, countless water droplets suddenly appeared in the void. The water droplets scattered, completely extinguishing the fire on the ground and washing the dust off Lu Shuai's face. The leaves fluttering in the air slowly fell down, completely covering the battlefield. The leaves that blocked the satellite dispersed. In the east of the forest, the teachers at the end of the maneuver finally saw everything on the battlefield through the satellite. Branches that had been burned into charcoal by the flames, pieces of ice scattered everywhere, tree trunks that had been cut by sword lights, deep pits on the ground, fallen leaves, and flying dust. The entire battlefield had been destroyed by the terrifying and fierce battle. Everyone subconsciously held their breath, and their eyes followed the floating leaves on the screen. They were eager to know the final result of this battle. Then, they saw Lu Shuai lying on the ground with his eyes wide open. Everyone gasped. Most of the teachers stared blankly at Lu Shuai's body on the screen, thinking that they had seen it wrong. But the sword wound on Lu Shuai's throat was so clear that it was a little dazzling. All of this showed that Lu Shuai was killed by that freshman. How did he do it? Even in the entire Sky Academy, Lu Shuai was one of the few experts. Perhaps his strength was not at the top, but he was definitely at the forefront. Such a figure was killed by a freshman, which put a lot of pressure on many teachers. More people subconsciously looked at Gu Yunxia's expression. Lu Shuai's death was definitely a considerable blow to Gu Yunxia. The teaching office of the Sky Academy had 1 director and 3 deputy directors. Among the 4 directors, Lu Shuai was the only expert who had not entered the thunder-shocking realm. When the school was forming the school's leadership before the beginning of the semester, Gu Yunxia made great efforts to promote Lu Shuai to the teaching office. She even made the relatively young Qin Ke the deputy director, which was part of the result of Gu Yunxia's compromise with Zhuang Huayang. Gu Yunxia's original intention of letting Lu Shuai to the teaching office was to expand her right to speak in the Sky Academy. But now Lu Shuai was killed by a freshman at the beginning of the semester. Gu Yunxia didn't care about how much face she had lost, but at least her situation in the Sky Academy would be more difficult in the future. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Gu Yunxia's face tightened and her resentful eyes stared at the screen. The anger that almost overwhelmed her reason kept brewing in her heart. The sympathetic, or gloating eyes from all directions added fuel to the fire, making her furious heart explode in an instant. She suddenly stood up, looked at Zhuang Huayang beside her, and said in a gloomy tone, "Headmaster, Deputy Director Lu was killed." Yes, what a pity. Compared with Gu Yunxia's rage, Zhuang Huayang seemed calm and even had a smile on his face when he said this. Gu Yunxia became more and more irritable. She looked at Zhuang Huayang with undisguised coldness and said, "Headmaster, I think we have to do something." Deputy Director Lu can't be sacrificed in vain. Sacrifice. In the Sky Academy, a special warfare academy with a strong military atmosphere, this word was undoubtedly one of the most serious words. Zhuang Huayang raised his eyebrows and said with a faint smile, "Oh? What are you going to do, Director Gu?" "I'm going to catch the little bastard named Li Tianlan now, abolish his martial arts, expel him from the Sky Academy, and report it to Kunlun City and the Ministry of State Security to send him to the Special Warfare Court," Gu Yunxia said without hesitation. Her cold tone seemed to be squeezed out from between her teeth, with unspeakable viciousness. This kind of bastard, who has no respect for his elders and doesn't know how to respect his teachers, will be a total scourge if he stays here. Several ordinary teachers near Gu Yunxia were also frightened and their scalps tingled. It was already a very serious punishment to abolish his martial arts and expel him from the Sky Academy. Reporting it to Kunlun City and the Ministry of State Security was tantamount to labeling Li Tianlan as never employed by the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State. Sending him to the Special Warfare Court was undoubtedly the most severe punishment. The role of the Special Warfare Court was similar to that of the military court, but it was harsher. Once sent to the Special Warfare Court, few people would have a good end. Gu Yunxia was completely going to punish Li Tianlan to death. It's a joke. Before Zhuang Huayang opened his mouth, a wild and unruly voice suddenly sounded with undisguised disdain and contempt. "I don't think this freshman did anything wrong. Why should he abolish his martial arts and expel him from the Sky Academy? Ridiculous." Lu Xiuwei shamelessly broke the rules of the maneuver. "Can't he let him fight back? Gu Yunxia, are you blind or deaf?" Lu Xiuwei himself said that he didn't show up as the deputy director of the Sky Academy. "What nonsense are you talking about? Respect his teachers? Bullshit. What this freshman did today was self-defense. If he didn't do this, would he really have to hand over his weapon and cripple his own arm to satisfy you, Director Gu? Does the Sky Academy need such a spineless coward? Does it? You!" Gu Yunxia flew into a rage. Her face, which looked extremely mean, turned red, but she couldn't say a word. Near Zhuang Huayang, a middle-aged man stood up, nodded to Zhuang Huayang casually, and said with a smile, "Headmaster, do you think what I said makes sense? What kind of bullshit senior is Lu Xiuwei doing today? It's a disgrace to the Sky Academy. He broke the rules of the maneuver for personal revenge and killed the talents of the Imperial Special Warfare System. What the hell? Does such a person deserve the word sacrifice? I suggest throwing his body out of the Sky Academy, so as not to pollute the land of the Sky Academy." "Yi Fengcheng. You've gone too far." Gu Yunxia's anger completely broke out, and she screamed and roared at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was slightly startled, and then he laughed out loud. His figure was ordinary, and even slightly short, but when he stood there, he had an indescribable arrogance and fierce aura. His appearance could still be considered handsome, but the 5 or 6 centimeters long scar on the left side of his face destroyed the overall beauty of his overall beauty, making him look more fierce and valiant. Am I going too far, or are you angry with shame? Look at the disgusting things your confidant has done. It's a good thing for Li Tianlan to kill this black sheep, but throwing him out of the Sky Academy is a light punishment. How dare you say to expel Li Tianlan and send him to the Special Warfare Court? Don't you care about your face at all? If you dare to do anything to this freshman, you'll have to go through me first. At worst, we'll fight to the death now. Gu Yunxia, do you dare or not? Gu Yunxia's shriveled body trembled with anger. She pointed at Yi Fengcheng and said, you, for a long time, but she couldn't say anything else. As for the ordinary teachers behind them, they didn't dare to say anything. For them, the scene in front of them was a real fight between immortals. This year's senior officials of the Sky Academy were almost clearly divided into 3 forces. Headmaster Zhuang Huayang's force was undoubtedly the largest. Second was the force of Gu Yunxia, the director of teaching. She was backed by Kunlun City, the power center of the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State. Therefore, even if her force was weaker than Zhuang Huayang's, she was full of confidence most of the time. The third force was headed by Yi Fengqing, the director of the political department of the Sky Academy. This force had existed almost since the establishment of the Sky Academy, and its foundation was very solid. Yi Fengqing himself was a core member of a top wealthy family in Yuzhou, the capital, so the follow-up development potential of this force was also not weak. Even outside the Sky Academy, these three people were now the backbone of the three super forces in Zhongzhou State. At this time, no one knew how fierce the conflict would go, so who dared to speak rashly? If this kind of conflict spread outside the Sky Academy and the three super behemoths took action, no ordinary teacher could bear that kind of pressure. That's enough. Seeing that Gu Yunxia was about to fight with Yi Fengqing in anger, Zhuang Huayang finally said, "On the first day of school, you two senior officials of the school are quarreling. What do you think it is?" He waved his hand and said in an unquestionable tone, "Sit down." Yi Fengqing glanced at Gu Yunxia with disdain and sat down lazily. His eyes continued to wander on the two big screens in front of him. Gu Yunxia stood still and looked directly at Zhuang Huayang with cold eyes. "Headmaster, Deputy Director Lu." "What Deputy Director Lu?" Zhuang Huayang laughed and said, "What I saw was just Lu Dongchao's uncle." Lu Xiuwei said it himself. "Didn't you hear it, Yunxia?" Gu Yunxia was tongue-tied. This was the part where she was in the wrong. In the past, she was eloquent, but what Lu Xiuwei did was really disgusting. Even if she wanted to speak up for him now, she didn't know what to say. "Yunxia, what is the Sky Academy in your eyes? What is the position of the senior officials of the Sky Academy in your eyes? Can we senior officials give up our principles for a relative? When you want to kill someone, you throw away your official identity, and when you are killed, you take out your official identity? Why is the official identity of our senior officials providing us with a reasonable protection to kill people? And the people you kill are not enemies, but your own students. In your eyes, is it normal for such a senior official of the Sky Academy? Is it reasonable?" Zhuang Huayang looked at Gu Yunxia and asked slowly. His tone was not fast, but every word he said brought great pressure to Gu Yunxia. Although he did not speak harshly, the meaning in his words was also very heavy. "Headmaster, I didn't mean that," Gu Yunxia said subconsciously. "I don't care what you mean." Zhuang Huayang waved his hand and said, "I only know that your proposal just now is very unreasonable." As for Lu Xiuwei, he broke the rules of the maneuver as Lu Dongchao's uncle, and now he was killed as Lu Dongchao's uncle. This is a personal grudge. Whoever kills who lives and who dies, they all deserve it. If you don't want to discredit the Sky Academy, you have to accept this. Do you understand? Headmaster, you're wise. Sitting nearby, Yi Fengqing threw a cigarette to Zhuang Huayang with a smile and said, "During the entrance maneuver, the deputy director of teaching openly tore off his official identity to break the rules of the maneuver and kill a freshman. In the end, he was killed instead. Tut, people will not only question the moral character of the senior officials of the Sky Academy, but also the strength of the senior officials of the Sky Academy. What kind of F***king deputy director is this? In addition to discrediting the Sky Academy, he has no effect at all. He deserves to die. As for the freshman, well, he is a talent, and the school should focus on training him." Zhuang Huayang smiled. He said that Lu Xiuwei deserved to die, which was not the same meaning as Yi Fengqing. But at this time, he did not bother to explain anything, just looked at Yi Fengqing and said with a smile, "Fengqing, are you also interested in that freshman?" "Yes." Yi Fengqing keenly captured this word. His eyes turned cold, and his smile faded. "Oh, talents are rare." Zhuang Huayang nodded and said no more, but he was sure in his heart that the reason why Yi Fengqing jumped out to attack Gu Yunxia was not only because Lu Xiuwei was a little rude to Wang Yuetong, but also because he really wanted to win over Li Tianlan. He looked at the screen, and his eyes fell on Li Tianlan. He sighed in his heart and shook his head. Gu Yunxia was also looking at Li Tianlan on the screen. With her back to Yi Fengqing and Zhuang Huayang, she narrowed her eyes tightly. The resentment and killing intent in her eyes were constantly surging, as if there was no rest. On the screen, Li Tianlan was walking quickly in the woods. He lowered his head and opened the credit counting table on his wrist. Gu Yunxia snorted, gritted her teeth, and sat back in her seat. The credit counting table of the Sky Academy had a lot of functions, but it was not complicated. In the student code of conduct, there were instructions about the use of the credit counting table. After careful study, Li Tianlan could basically master it. The credit counting table had positioning and communication functions. In order not to put Li Beidian and others in danger, Li Tianlan turned off the wristwatch as soon as he rushed out of the maze. At this time, Lu Xiaowei was dead. He opened the map on the wristwatch and directly found 2 red dots on the map. His wristwatch only had the friends of Ning Qianqing and Li Beidian, so he could only locate them. As for Wang Yuetong and Yu Qingyan, they should still be with them at this time. Li Tianlan pressed a button, said hello, and asked directly, Beidian, is there anything going on there? At the other end of the woods, Li Beidian and others who were walking all the way east had already noticed something wrong. They were even sure that Li Tianlan did not go all the way east. At this time, they were hesitating whether to split up to find Li Tianlan. Hearing Li Tianlan's voice, Li Beidian's anxious and surprised voice came directly through the table. Tianlan, how are you? F*CKU, why did you turn off the positioning? Don't you understand that there is strength in numbers? Stupid, stupid as a pig. You are going to be F*King killed. How can I go back in? Li Beidian paused and then said, where is Lu Xiaowei, that old bastard? I am still alive, so he is naturally dead. Chapter 26. Following the positioning information on the map, when Li Tianlan, Li Beidian, and the others met up, the battle that was sprinting toward the finish line was also coming to an end. About 6 or 7 senior students of the Sky Academy of different sizes, male and female, were lying on the ground. At this time, all of them were unconscious. Specks of dark red blood spattered on the surrounding trees and grass, which was ghastly and glaring. Li Beidian's face was pale. Being carried on Ning Qianqing's back, blood was still flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was much taller than Ning Qianqing, so even if he was lying on Ning Qianqing's back, his feet would touch the ground from time to time, which looked a little funny. Ning Qianqing seemed to be in a better state, but at this time, he was also covered in blood, and there were 2 deep knife wounds on his arms that had not been bandaged. Yu Qingyan was lying near them, in a coma. Wang Yuetong, known as the Siren, had undoubtedly become the most eye-catching existence in the whole battlefield. The vast sword energy rotated around her tall and slender body. Behind her, a huge sword completely condensed from mysterious ice hung in the air and trembled slightly. Different from the one seen in the maze, the huge sword behind her at this time was 5 or 6 meters long and more than 2 meters wide. The heavy sword body only trembled slightly, but it made a harsh sound in the air. The simple and heavy sword intent condensed and dissipated around the huge sword. Wang Yuetong's face was expressionless, and her enchanting little face was full of arrogance and indifference. Li Tianlan subconsciously glanced around and looked at the large pieces of cut trees on the battlefield. He could completely imagine the posture of Wang Yuetong controlling the huge sword behind her to attack with all her strength. It might not be appropriate to describe such an enchanting woman as majestic and domineering, but at this moment, in Li Tianlan's imagination, Wang Yuetong, who controlled the huge ice sword behind her to defeat all her opponents, was indeed extraordinarily majestic and domineering. Li Tianlan calmly stopped outside the range of Wang Yuetong's sword chi and coughed. At this moment, Wang Yuetong was obviously still immersed in the rhythm of the battle just now. At this time, once he entered the range of her sword chi, what awaited Li Tianlan was likely to be a full blow from her. Li Tianlan had never heard of such a huge sword, such a unique skill, and the Wang family of Beihai. But at this moment, feeling the vast and delicate sword chi, he was completely sure that it was a top unique skill in the entire dark world. Li Tianlan was still in the ice-condensing realm. It was not difficult for him to take the blow, but it was not easy either. Are you guys okay? Li Tianlan asked. As he spoke, the silent battlefield suddenly became lively. Li Beidian, who was lying on Ning Qianqing's back, quickly raised his head and glanced at Li Tianlan. Seeing that Li Tianlan was not missing an arm or a leg, the corner of his mouth twitched and he said weakly, "Damn you. It's all right." Ning Qianqing also seemed to heave a sigh of relief and a smile appeared on his face. He bounced Li Beidian on his back and said with a smile, "But this fellow will probably need to rest for a few days. Since the scene of a beauty rescuing a bear has come out, of course he will be fine." The indifference and pride on Wang Yuedong's face disappeared little by little. A smile that could almost enchant people appeared on her face again. The huge sword on her back quickly dissipated, became blurred, and finally disappeared without a trace. Wang Yuetong carried the unconscious Yu Qingyan on her back and walked to Li Tianlan's side. She stared at Li Tianlan with her clear eyes. After a while, she said in a strange tone, "Did you really kill Lu Xiaowei?" "It was just a fluke." Li Tianlan was unwilling to talk more. He just looked at the unconscious Yu Qingyan and frowned. "What the hell is going on?" "I was sneak attacked." Wang Yuetong seemed to be a little dissatisfied with Li Tianlan's perfunctory answer. She wrinkled her nose and said, "A brilliant disciple from Mount Shu wanted to defeat Lu Dongyu with one move in the maze. He barely managed to do it. Although he did not use his sword, he was seriously injured. After he came out, he was distracted because he was worried about you in an environment that could be dangerous at any time. As a result, he was sneak attacked and was the first to lose his combat power. As for Qingyan, she is still too naive and timid. What she has learned is not suitable for the rhythm of the Sky Academy's maneuver. It's all about killing people. Therefore, she was restrained and was the second to be eliminated. Qianqing took care of Li Taishu and Qingyan, and I was the only one left to deal with those sneak attackers." Li Beidian seemed to be a little ashamed. He struggled to climb down from Ning Qianqing's back and said with no confidence, "Believe it or not, I can definitely kill Lu Dongyu in seconds with that sword." "I do." Wang Yuetong said with a smile, "But even if you can kill Lu Dongyu in seconds, how good can you be? I guess you are really weak, right? Am I right? Li Taishu? My name is Li Beidian." Li Beidian was about to cry. "Damn it, when I was in Mount Shu, I was always called Taishu, or Martial Uncle Taishu by my senior brother. My ass, I'm not weak at all, okay? Taishu. If I continue to call you by that name, I can't even marry a wife in the future. My name is Li Beidian. Whoever calls me Li Taishu again, I'll fall out with him." "Got it, Taishu," Ning Qianqing said with a poker face. "Drunbility Cheng. You. What's wrong, Brother Su?" Li Tianlan held back his laughter and walked up to them. He said sincerely, "Thank you. It's not necessary." Ning Qianqing shook his head. "We are brothers in the same dormitory. Don't be so polite." Li Beidian also shook his head and looked at Li Tianlan. He had a lot of questions in his heart, such as Li Tianlan's realm and how he killed Lu Xiaowei. But when the questions were on the tip of his tongue, he held back and said, "Let's go first. It's not far from the finish line. If you have anything to say, wait until the maneuver is over." "I do want to go." Li Tianlan smiled. The silver human emperor slipped quietly into his palm and he held it tightly. "But I'm afraid someone won't let me." Li Beidian was stunned, and his eyes became alert. Wang Yuetong also moved to Li Tianlan's side. She put Yu Qingyan down and stood side by side with Li Tianlan. Li Beidian and Ning Qianqing looked at each other. They were not worried. Among the 5 people now, Li Beidian and Yu Qingyan had no fighting capacity, but Ning Qianqing could still fight. The most important thing was that Wang Yuetong and Li Tianlan were already standing together. They had all seen Wang Yuedong's attack just now. This little woman, known as the Wang Siren but with few specific rumors, was more than powerful and domineering just now. When the 5 or 6 meter long giant sword came out, it was really unparalleled in the world. From the beginning to the end of the battle, the whole process took less than 10 seconds. It was a complete suppression. On the list of the top 10 experts of the young generation, Wang Yuetong was ranked behind Ning Qianqing, but her actual combat capacity was much higher than Ning Qianqing's. Needless to say, such a person standing together with Li Tianlan, who could kill Lu Xiuwei, an expert at the peak of the fire-flaming realm, at the ice-condensing realm, gave them a sense of security. Light footsteps sounded in the woods dozens of meters away. Li Tianlan gently rubbed the human emperor in his hand, and he was as quiet as a statue. Behind Wang Yuetong, the giant ice sword rose again. The sword energy spread and completely enveloped Li Badian and the others. In this domain, no matter who was attacked, Wang Yuetong could immediately condense her sword energy at one point and attack any enemy. Li Tianlan frowned subconsciously, and his body tensed up a little quietly. Then, as if he had realized something, he relaxed again. It was a short time, and the change was extremely fast. But in an instant, Wang Yuetong keenly captured some subtle changes. She suddenly turned her head and opened her watery and charming eyes wide, looking at Li Tianlan with a trace of undisguised shock. "Senior brother Tianlan, how did you do it?" Wang Yuetong asked. She took a step toward Li Tianlan, and her delicate body was almost attached to Li Tianlan's. "What?" Li Tianlan raised his eyebrows slightly. "You know what I'm talking about." Wang Yuetong looked at Li Tianlan persistently, with a trace of scorching and seriousness in her eyes that could make any man shudder. At that moment, her sword qi naturally spread around, trying to envelop everyone and form a whole. But when the sword qi enveloped Li Tianlan, Wang Yuetong found that her sword qi was completely isolated. All the sword qi could not get close to Li Tianlan. The land where he was seemed to have become a world of its own, invulnerable to all enemies. What did this mean? It not only meant that Li Tianlan's method was ingenious, but also meant that in the domain shrouded by Wang Yuetong's sword energy, if she was Li Tianlan's enemy, then this unique skill of hers would be a great flaw and weakness. How could the unique skill of the Wang family of Beihai have a flaw? Wang Yuetong's heart beat violently. She looked at Li Tianlan, hoping that he could give her an answer. But Li Tianlan kept silent from beginning to end. "Senior brother Tianlan, you don't trust me, do you?" Wang Yuetong suddenly said. "Do you trust me, junior sister Yuetong?" Li Tianlan replied calmly. His first impression of Wang Yuetong was not bad, but he did not dare to trust her too much. It was completely out of instinct. He always felt that this junior sister was a little too smart. It seemed that if he revealed a little more, she could guess his identity. This sense of danger made Li Tianlan want to stay away from her completely subconsciously. Wang Yuetong also fell silent. Trust? If she was just an ordinary girl, this word was really worthless in her heart. But she was not. She was a siren in everyone's eyes, a princess in everyone's eyes, and a core member of the top rich and powerful family in Zhongzhou State. Trust was a luxury for her. It was not that she could not have it, but it was not easy to get it. Wang Yuetong gently bit her lip and blinked her charming eyes. For a moment, she could not tell what she was feeling. The footsteps were getting closer and more obvious. While Li Tianlan was listening attentively and judging the number of people, Wang Yuetong's voice rang in his ear again. "Senior brother Tianlan, do you have a girlfriend?" Her voice was low, husky, and charming. Her slightly trembling voice seemed to be transmitted to the depths of people's hearts, with irresistible temptation. Ning Qianqing and Li Baitian's bodies shook at the same time, but they did not speak. Li Tianlan thought of Qin Weibai immediately. He thought of the woman who could not be described with any flowery words. Girlfriend, Li Tianlan was a little lost in thought. He had not been in contact with Qin Weibai for a long time, just a day. But in this one day, she directly walked into his heart in a manner that could not be refused. Even if he wanted to, he could not. Would she be his girlfriend? Li Tianlan laughed at himself and said softly, "No." His voice was light and breezy, but in Wang Yuetong's ears, there was a hint of indifference and loneliness in his voice. Wang Yuedong's heart trembled slightly. Blushing because of what she said just now, she went further and said softly, I don't have a boyfriend either. Damn, it hurts my eyes, no, it hurts my ears. Yuetong, should I not have shown up? Our little princess actually took the initiative to confess her love to someone? Is it possible? Is it possible? Brother, I advise you not to say yes. Don't say yes. If you say yes, it is estimated that the number of people who want to challenge you can line up from Huading to Yuzhou. You have to take it easy, take it easy. A playful voice suddenly rang out. In the sight of Li Tianlan and others, a short and fat figure appeared about 10 meters away from them with several senior students. Li Tianlan was stunned. Wang Yuetong seemed to be a little surprised too. But when she heard the content of the other's words, her blushing beautiful face became even redder. The huge sword behind her also carried a trace of undisguised killing intent. She stamped her feet hard and gritted her teeth. Fan Haoyu, which eye of yours saw me confess my love? I dare you to say it again. The smile on the short and fat man's face froze. Looking at the angry killing intent in Wang Yuedong's eyes, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed and did not dare to come forward for a moment. He rolled his eyes and accidentally found Ning Qianqing, who was carrying Li Beidian on his back. He laughed and said, Qianqing is also here. Long time no see. Why are you together? He took a tentative step forward and at the same time, carefully glanced at Wang Yuedong's face. If you want to come over, then come over. What are you looking at? The huge sword behind Wang Yuetong disappeared again and she said fiercely. Fan Haoyu walked over with an embarrassed smile and rubbed his hands. He seemed to be a little guilty and did not know what to say for a moment. Fatty Fan, why are you here? Wang Yuedong's face was still red, and she looked at Fan Haoyu curiously and asked. This place is the territory of our elite organization. Just now I heard something nearby and knew that someone attacked the freshmen, so I rushed over to get a few credit meters. Who knew you were here? Fan Haoyu said with a wry smile. Wang Yuetong giggled and let go of all her hostility. She pulled Li Tianlan's arm with her slender and white fingers and said with a smile, Senior brother Tianlan, let me introduce you. This is Fan Haoyu, you can call him Fatty Fan. He is my friend. He and his elite organization are also one of the organizations of senior students who stayed in school last year. But this fatty is different from Lu Dongchao and his sister. Don't underestimate him. Lu Dongchao and his sister are powerful when they fight together. If you face this fatty alone, no one can survive 3 moves from him. He is an expert at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. Li Tianlan was shocked. Fan Haoyu in front of him was indeed short and fat. He was less than 1.7 meters tall, but he weighed at least 100 kilograms. Moreover, he liked winking when he spoke, which made him look extremely wretched. He did not look like an expert in any way. But the words, peak of the fire-flaming realm, were enough to dispel all his doubts. Li Tianlan sighed inwardly that he could not judge a book by its cover. He took the initiative to extend his hand and said softly, Hello, I am Li Tianlan. This is senior brother Tianlan, the most outstanding freshman of this year. Wang Yuetong grinned and casually put a high hat on Li Tianlan's head. A strange look flashed across Fan Haoyu's face. Then he held Li Tianlan's hand with a smile and said, Nice to meet you. Ning Qianqing and Li Beidian stood on the other side. They were obviously not interested in such an occasion. By the way, why did you come by yourself? Where is Sumai? Wang Yuetong asked impatiently when she saw Fan Haoyu shaking Li Tianlan's hand. Like Fan Haoyu, Sumai was the flag leader of the elite organization. Although his strength was slightly inferior, he was also an expert at the stabilization phase of the fire-flaming realm. They were best friends since childhood. There was no reason for him not to show up at this time. Fan Haoyu's face darkened and he said bitterly, he failed miserably and was injured by a freshman. 10 seconds, or even less than 10 seconds. When I rushed over with my men, I was already unconscious. The freshman had already run away. Are you sure it's a freshman? Wang Yuetong frowned and subconsciously glanced at Li Tianlan. In terms of strength, Sumai was almost on par with Lu Dongchao. If he overthrew Sumai in 10 seconds, he was almost as good as Li Tianlan. It's a freshman, and the point is that he's in the ice-condensing realm. His name seems to be Gulan. Damn it, I'm so embarrassed this time. Fan Haoyu cursed. Wang Yuetong's eyes flickered thoughtfully. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Wang Yuetong thought for a while and shook her head. I'll go see Sumai after the maneuver. Fatty, I want to ask you about someone. Among the senior students who stayed in this year, there's a woman who uses 2 sabers. She's about 1.7 meters tall, very beautiful, and has long hair. What's her name? Such conditions were far from specific. Fortunately, there were not many senior students who stayed in this year. Fan Haoyu thought for a while and said with some uncertainty, is she fast? Wang Yuetong's eyes lit up and she nodded. Just now, she led some people to sneak attack us. She's really fast. At the first moment, she seriously injured Li. Well, Li Baidian, and one of my roommates. But in the end, she ran away, but I killed all the people who followed her. Fan Haoyu walked over and looked at the senior students who were still on the ground. Then he said with certainty, it should be Du Hanin, but hasn't she been disabled? Strange, Yuetong, Du Hanin is an extraordinary person. Do you want me to tell you some gossip about her? I'm not interested. Wang Yuetong shook her head. We don't have time. We're going to the finish line now. Fatty, it should be okay if I lend you a few people to escort us, right? No problem. Fan Haoyu laughed heartily and waved his hand. Gao Chang. Here. A burly senior ran over and gave a military salute to Fan Haoyu. You escort these students all the way to the finish line. Go and come back quickly. Our mission has just begun, you understand? Fan Haoyu said casually. Understood. Gao Chang said in a loud voice. Fan Haoyu nodded, looked at Wang Yuetong, and said with a smile, this is the number 3 figure of our elite organization. Don't worry, with him following you, no senior student will dare to attack you. Your next journey will be absolutely smooth, I can guarantee that. Thank you. Although he knew that Fan Haoyu's help was all because of Wang Yuetong, he still thanked Fan Haoyu very seriously. Fan Haoyu smiled and waved his hand. Brother, see you after the maneuver. With Gao Chang leading the way, the 5 of them went straight to the finish line. Behind them, Fan Haoyu narrowed his eyes and casually sat on an unconscious senior student with a body of more than 100 kilograms, watching them go farther and farther. In his sight, Wang Yuetong and Li Tianlan walked side by side, and they were getting closer and closer. Chapter 27. Fan Haoyu was not bragging. The elite organization was really a force that could control the situation among the senior students. Li Tianlan didn't care whether it was cheating to use his connections to get to the finish line, and the others didn't raise any objections, which was enough to show that it was feasible. There was a suspicion of cheating, but it really saved a lot of time and effort. Li Tianlan had no reason to refuse such a good thing, nor did he have the capital to refuse. He was still in the ice-condensing realm and could barely fight. If he really didn't care about the consequences, he could stay in the ice-condensing realm for a day or 2. Maybe it wouldn't hurt his foundation as Wang Yuetong said, and he would never reach the invincible realm. But with the strength of the chi-controlling realm, the longer he stayed in the ice-condensing realm, the greater the price he would pay. If he stayed for 1 or 2 more hours now, he might have to wait for 1 or 2 more months to break through the ice-condensing realm in the future. Since Li Tianlan left the border, he always had a sense of urgency that made him unable to breathe. Time was the most important thing to him. He didn't want to delay for 1 or 2 days, let alone 1 or 2 months. About a week before the start of the Sky Academy, Li Tianlan had a fight with Qin Ke because of a misunderstanding. A nonentity less than the Qi-controlling realm fought against a thunder-shocking realm expert. One could imagine his injury. In this maneuver, Li Tianlan was originally injured, and he forcibly raised his realm, so his injury was naturally more serious. After coming out of the maze and fighting with Lu Xiaowei, although he had not been fatally injured, his all-out attack had aggravated his injury again. Now Li Tianlan could be said to have real internal injuries, which even hurt his 5 internal organs. Among their temporary group of 5, he was the one who needed to be treated the most. After the maneuver, they would have about a week's vacation, during which they could stay in school to recuperate or go to see the colorful world of Huading. After this week, no matter how the students recovered from their injuries, intensive training and learning would officially begin, as well as a lot of actual combat confrontations and internal maneuvers. In the 3 years of the Sky Academy, if they wanted to get enough credits to compete for the quota that could only be produced every 3 years, personal strength and combat effectiveness were naturally extremely important, but the importance of endurance could not be ignored. Now Gao Chang, the third in command of the elite organization, was willing to personally escort them to the end of the maneuver, which could save them at least 2 or 3 battles. For Li Tianlan, who was eager to stabilize his injury, it was absolutely good news that he could not refuse. However, just as he instinctively wanted to repel Wang Yuedong's sword Qi, even with Gao Chang's escort, he did not let down his guard along the way. This vigilance even included Gao Chang, who was leading the way at the front. The 6 of them shuttled through the woods in silence, all the way to the east. In less than half an hour, Li Tianlan found at least 3 places where there were traces of senior students lurking. Perhaps because they saw Gao Chang, no one made a move at all. 40 minutes later, a pool of water came into view. Gao Chang stopped and pointed at the pool in front of them. Everyone, follow the pool for another 300 meters. After turning a corner, you will reach the end. This is as far as I can send you. The pool is the safe zone. Once we step into it, it is equivalent to giving up on the mission or completing the mission. Thank you, Senior. Wang Yuetong smiled sweetly. She was extremely beautiful when she smiled. Her charming eyes squinted slightly with 2 shallow dimples. As the corners of her mouth rose, her whole body carried a kind of charm that seemed to hook people's hearts. The key was that all this temperament was revealed unintentionally, and it was precisely because it was unintentional that it seemed more fatal. No need. Gao Chang's face turned red. He waved his hand in a flurry and did not even have time to say hello to the others. He turned around and rushed directly into the woods. His figure soon disappeared. As the third in command of the elite organization and his relationship with Fan Haoyu, Gao Chang was no stranger to Wang Yuetong and the Wang family of Beihai, especially the Wang family of Beihai. Over the years, he had heard too many legendary stories about this legendary family. Along the way, he put aside the charm of the little princess of the Wang family, and the mere 4 words of the Wang family of Beihai brought him a lot of pressure. Now that he had successfully completed the mission, he was completely relieved and did not want to stay for another second. When Gao Chang's figure completely disappeared, Li Tianlan and the others began to carefully look at the environment in front of them. The pool in front of them was still in the woods. The water was very shallow, just knee-high. Its length was unknown, but its width was about 300 meters. On the opposite side of the pool was an obvious corner. According to Gao Chang, the corner was the end of the maneuver. Li Tianlan looked at the pool in front of him silently with a calm expression. Crossing a 300-meter wide pool wasn't a big deal, but the most important thing was that the pool was filled with extremely sharp stones. In the clear water, the stones were laid from one end to the other, and it was enough to make one's scalp go numb just by looking at it. Damn it, this is a bit too much. Ning Qiansheng, who had been quiet all this time, could not help but speak. Looking at the sharp stones under the water, his face was extremely ugly. This kind of stone would be even sharper when stepped on after being soaked in water. Even if their military boots were specially made, the 300-meter wide pool might not be able to support them to cross half the distance. When the military boots were pierced by the stones and the sharp edges stabbed into their feet, that feeling was worse than death. And this is running water. Who came up with this stupid idea? It's a scam. Li Beidian was lying on Ning Qianqing's back, and his tone was a little weak. Li Tianlan understood what he meant. If the pool in front of them was not running water, it would not matter even if the bottom was covered with blades, not to mention stones. All 5 of them were now in the ice-condensing realm. If they used all their strength, they could completely freeze the pool temporarily and step on the ice to cross the pool by force. But there was a world of difference between running water and dead water. Moreover, the water in the pool in front of them was very fast. To freeze this kind of water into ice was equivalent to going against the laws of nature. One could imagine the difficulty. Even if they were not injured, they did not have the ability to completely freeze a pool hundreds of meters wide into ice, not to mention that they were all injured. The physical strength and willpower required were not something that experts in the ice-condensing realm or even the fire-flaming realm could do. Let's go. We have to go sooner or later. There's no point in delaying here. Li Tianlan looked at the rushing water in front of him and said in a calm tone. He casually glanced at Wang Yuetong, who was carrying Yu Qingyan on her back. What do you think, junior sister Yuetong? I'll listen to you, senior brother Tianlan. Wang Yuetong could be said to be the most relaxed person on the scene. She seemed to not take the pool in front of her seriously at all. She casually supported Yu Qingyan's body and said softly, I'm so tired. Li Tianlan was not a fool. How could he not understand such an obvious hint? Indeed, along the way, Ning Qianqing carried Li Beidian on his back and Wang Yuetong carried Yu Qingyan on her back. It seemed a little unkind for him to be alone. Li Tianlan subconsciously touched his nose and said, let me carry Qingyan for a while. That won't do. Wang Yuetong glanced at Li Tianlan and said with a faint smile, men and women should not touch each other. Senior brother Tianlan, don't you know this? Do you want to take advantage of Qingyan? She gently raised her tender white hand and patted Yu Qingyan's buttocks. She squinted and said with a smile, it feels good. It's bouncy and soft. Senior brother, do you want to touch it? Li Tianlan blushed and retreated in defeat. When it came to women, he was really a virgin. In this era where it was inconceivable to be a virgin at the age of 18 or 19, Li Tianlan, who was about to turn 20, was a real weirdo. Not only was he a virgin, but he still had his first kiss. The topic of women was completely mysterious and taboo to him. Li Tianlan subconsciously glanced at Yu Qingyan's pert buttocks. Because she was lying on her stomach, the shape outlined by the camouflage pants was extremely attractive. It was indeed a beautiful scene. But Li Tianlan could not help but think of Qin Weibai. He could not be blamed for being hopeless. Qin Weibai's appearance completely matched the most perfect perfection in Li Tianlan's heart. Her figure, appearance, temperament, speech, behavior, and every expression and movement were the most beautiful scenery in Li Tianlan's heart. Thinking of Qin Weibai, Li Tianlan's heart suddenly became calm. He looked at Wang Yuetong and shook his head slightly. He said calmly, I didn't mean that. Who knows what you're thinking? Wang Yuetong giggled and put Yu Qingyan's body on her shoulder. Then she reached out to Li Tianlan with the other hand and said, this girl is unconscious. I can't let you take advantage of her. You hold my hand. If I can't hold it later, remember to help me. Li Beidian whistled and cackled on Ning Qianqing's back. But when Wang Yuetong glanced at him, he immediately fell silent. Li Tianlan did not think much and held Wang Yuetong's small hand in his. He felt as if he was holding a piece of the best mutton fat, warm jade, warm and smooth. Wang Yuetong's face turned slightly red, but her grip on Li Tianlan's hand tightened slightly. In an instant, Li Tianlan only felt that he was surrounded by a warm feeling. The coldness in his body caused by the forced promotion to the ice-condensing realm also dissipated a lot. He seemed to be relaxed. Li Tianlan was stunned. He turned to look at Wang Yuetong and happened to meet her clear eyes. He could clearly see his own reflection in her eyes. Presumably, she felt the same way. Wang Yuetong's small hand tightened again. She blinked and then began to go into the water with Yu Qingyan on her back. Li Tianlan understood that the siren of Wang was not tired at all. She clearly sensed that his internal injury was about to break out, so she chose to help him. He wanted to say thank you, but he swallowed the words when they were on the tip of his tongue. But he still felt a little amazed when he felt the warmth in the air around him. Wang Yuetong's realm at this time was not only at the peak of the ice-condensing realm, but also half a step into the fire-flaming realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to help him to this extent. The five of them waded through the water. Wang Yuetong stepped on the stones under her feet as if she were walking on flat ground, without any discomfort. Li Tianlan was also calm and collected. However, as they walked further and further away, Ning Qianqing, who was carrying Li Beidian on his back, began to show signs of being unable to support himself. His legs trembled slightly with every step, but he continued to carry Li Beidian steadily and did not complain at all. 50 meters. 150 meters. 230 meters. The other shore was already close at hand. When Ning Qianqing once again lifted his trembling legs and took a step forward, his feet were already dripping with blood. The dark red blood permeated the water and temporarily blocked the situation at the bottom of the water. Ning Qianqing was not paying attention and was directly tripped by a slightly larger stone. With a muffled groan, he staggered toward the water surface and knelt down. Once Ning Qianqing knelt down with such a sharp stone and Li Beidian's weight, he would have to rest for a few months at best. From then on, he would be left behind in the Sky Academy. In an instant, Li Tianlan suddenly took a step back and suddenly reached out. The moment he grabbed Ning Qianqing's arm, the water within a radius of about 3 to 5 meters suddenly stilled with him as the center. The flowing water turned into ice. The moment Ning Qianqing's fallen knees touched the layer of ice, the ice had already broken. But Ning Qianqing, who had found a fragile point of support, stood up again at the same time. Don't let go. Li Tianlan held Wang Yuetong with one hand and Ning Qianqing with the other. His face was as white as paper, but his tone was still calm like a rock and a glacier. We're almost there, let's go together. Ning Qianqing, who was still in shock, took a deep look at Li Tianlan. He did not say thank you, but carried Li Beidian with one hand and slowly moved forward. Li Beidian looked at Li Tianlan and suddenly said, Tianlan, can you bear it? I'm fine. Li Tianlan said indifferently. His military boots had long been pierced by the stones at the bottom of the water. Almost every time he took a step, blood would gush out of the soles of his feet and flow with the water to an unknown place. But his steps were extremely steady, without the slightest hint of reluctance. Li Beidian could not find any other words to describe his feelings other than to be convinced by such willpower. He glanced at Wang Yuetong again. Compared with them, the little princess of the Wang family was like heaven and earth. Li Beidian estimated that if it were not for them, the little princess would have jumped over the pool. Others walked with difficulty, but she walked casually with a person on her back. Not to mention blood, there was not even a scratch on her skin. It's good to be a privileged person. Li Beidian sighed with emotion, his face full of envy. Don't you know that feet are a girl's second face? If I walk like you, my feet will be in great pain when I go back. If my future boyfriend is a foot fetish, won't I be despised? Wang Yuetong's eyes moved and her smile was gentle. How did you know the contents of the maneuver in advance? Li Beidian could not help but ask. I don't know. Wang Yuetong shook her head and said, but the headmaster reminded me in advance to wear thicker shoes, so I put a layer of cold glue in my shoes. This time, not only Li Beidian, but also Ning Qianqing's mouth was twitching. Not to mention whether it was legal for the headmaster, Zhuang Huayang, to give such a reminder to Wang Yuetong. The layer of cold glue was enough to make people completely speechless. The cold glue technology was a new technology secretly developed by the Zhongzhou state military. It was not mature yet, and most people had not even heard of it. Ning Qianqing and Li Beidian were definitely knowledgeable, but they had only heard the name of cold glue. Who knew that Wang Yuetong could use it to make insoles? Damn privileged people. Li Badian cursed in his heart and shook his head. For a moment, he did not know what to say. 280 meters. They landed. After walking out of the pool and coming back to the relatively flat land, even Li Tianlan felt like he was about to collapse. If it weren't for his extraordinary willpower supporting him, he might not even have the courage to walk into the pool with his injuries. Now that he walked out of the pool again and was about to reach the end, he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He only felt that everything in front of him was black, and he was about to fall to the ground at any time. Qiansheng, how are you? Li Tianlan asked Ning Qiansheng, whose legs were trembling slightly, after taking a deep breath and barely bracing himself to stand firm. I can still hold on. Ning Qiansheng forced a smile and said, let's go. We'll talk about it when we reach the finish line. Li Tianlan nodded, turned directly, and walked to the corner ahead. When they were about to turn, an extremely cold and angry roar suddenly sounded from afar. It was hundreds of meters away, but the voice was still clear. Stop. Li Tianlan and the others looked back at the same time. In their sight, at the other end of the pool, two figures in camouflage rushed into the pool without hesitation. The water under their feet splashed up and instantly froze into a layer of ice. They rushed forward for nearly 20 meters before falling into the water. Even though they fell into the water, they sprinted toward the shore at an extremely fast speed, as if they were not affected by the stones at the bottom of the water at all. Because of the distance, Li Tianlan could not see their faces clearly, nor was he in the mood to look at them carefully. He just glanced at them, turned directly, and said without hesitation, let's go. The five turned the corner. 30 meters ahead, the end of the maneuver was in sight. Led by Zhuang Huayang, all the school leaders were present. Behind the leaders were hundreds of school teachers. There was also a pool at the end of the maneuver. On both sides of the pool were two tall screens, which were playing the scenes of the maneuver. Because they were too close, Li Tianlan even saw his own figure in a small grid between the two screens. The entire end of the maneuver was silent. Ning Qiansheng and Li Badian were the first to notice the strange atmosphere. At first, they did not know what was going on, but when they inadvertently saw Li Tianlan and Wang Yuetong in front of them, their expressions suddenly changed slightly. Tianlan. Ning Qiansheng shouted in a low voice, and there was a rare hint of anxiety in his voice. Let go of me. Li Tianlan suddenly came to his senses and was stunned. Then he realized that he had been holding Wang Yuetong's little hand since they came ashore. And at the end of the maneuver, the focus of everyone's attention, including Zhuang Huayang's, seemed to be on their tightly clasped hands. There were doubts, oddities, killing intent, fear, and thoughtfulness in people's eyes. Li Tianlan frowned slightly. Suddenly, he felt that the little hand in his hand, which was like a mutton-fat warm jade, moved slightly, as if it wanted to break free. Completely out of instinct, Li Tianlan subconsciously held Wang Yuetong's hand tightly and said faintly, "Don't move." At that moment, Li Tianlan could clearly feel the palm in his hand tremble slightly. Then Wang Yuetong silently lowered her head, letting him hold her hand and walk forward. 30 meters. 20 meters. 15 meters. More and more people gathered on their palms. Li Tianlan's expression became calmer and calmer. 10 meters. A dazzling but tiny electric arc suddenly appeared in front of Li Tianlan. The electric arc came so suddenly that even though Li Tianlan had been on guard, he did not have time to react when the electric light appeared. The next second, Li Tianlan felt his hand go numb, and then it became light again. The figures of Wang Yuetong and Yu Qingyan had been carried by an extremely seductive and mature woman to the end of the maneuver 10 meters away. She put Wang Yuetong beside her and smiled softly. Her voice was hoarse, but it was indescribably sexy. The first place, Wang Yuetong. 2 chapters with 11,000 words. Brothers, are updates really slow? Chapter 28. Everything happened so suddenly that there was no way to guard against it. Not to mention Li Tianlan, who was seriously injured. Even in the whole Sky Academy, there were few people who could react to this scene. That kind of extreme speed was even completely beyond people's thinking. It was precisely because Li Tianlan couldn't react that a few people could observe his real expression. Who was the best in this entrance maneuver? Wang Yuetong from the Wang family of Beihai defeated several senior students in seconds. Her performance was really outstanding. Li Beidian from Mount Shu seemed to be doing nothing, but at the exit of the maze, he managed to control the unification of swords with magnificent sword energy. From the forest, Gu Yulan from Kunlun City defeated Su Mai, the number 2 figure of the elite organization, in a few seconds, which was also amazing. But the most outstanding one was undoubtedly Li Tianlan. He forcibly raised his realm at the Qi-controlling realm and killed Lu Xiuwei, who was at the peak of the fire-flaming realm. This kind of terrifying potential made everyone's scalp numb. Such a performance had already made Li Tianlan the well-deserved first place in the hearts of most teachers. Now they were indeed the first team to appear at the finish line, but the original first place was taken by a female student in their team less than 10 meters away from the finish line. What would Li Tianlan do? Zhuang Huayang sat calmly in his seat and glanced at Li Tianlan calmly. Yi Fengqing seemed to casually lower his head and light a cigarette, but out of the corner of his eyes, he kept staring at Li Tianlan. There was obvious mockery in Gu Yunxia's eyes. The mature woman who had just taken Wang Yuetong and Yu Qingyan to the finish line was also staring at Li Tianlan with a playful look. There was a difference of 30 credits between the first and the third, or the third to the 10th. In the Sky Academy, good friends could turn against each other for a credit, so it went without saying that 30 credits meant a huge amount of wealth. Everyone was very interested in how Li Tianlan would perform in the face of these 30 credits. Li Tianlan's performance was very calm, so calm that people felt it was abnormal. He was just in a trance, and then his eyes became calm. Facing Zhuang Huayang, he bowed slightly and said softly, "Hello, headmaster." "Good." Zhuang Huayang narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "Good performance. It's good that you're okay." At the same time, the mature woman who brought Wang Yuetong to the finish line and Yi Fengqing also narrowed their eyes and looked at each other tacitly. Li Tianlan's behavior was obviously not what they wanted to see. Even if he was extremely disappointed, angry, resentful, or sincerely congratulating Wang Yuetong, they could understand. However, this new student in front of them was too quiet to the point that they had no idea what he was thinking. Such shrewdness was simply unfathomable. If such a person were to grow up, he would definitely not be someone to be trifled with. Li Tianlan continued to move forward, but as soon as he moved, another person blocked his way again. Gu Yunxia. She stood in front of Li Tianlan, expressionless and cold. Li Tianlan stopped, but his expression and eyes did not change at all. His face was not as stiff as a dead man's or as if he had facial paralysis. Instead, he was truly and thoroughly calm and indifferent from the inside out. This kind of mentality was so steady that it made people feel cold in their hearts. "You guys go first." Li Tianlan glanced at Ning Qiansheng and Li Beidian. The reward for the 2nd to 10th place was 50 credits. They were all in the same dormitory, so there was no practical meaning to who went first and who went last except to sound nice. When both of them passed the finish line, Li Tianlan looked at Gu Yunxia in front of him and asked slowly, "Director Gu, what can I do for you? Do you know what you've done?" Gu Yunxia looked at Li Tianlan coldly and asked. Feeling the monstrous anger and killing intent in her words, Li Tianlan answered honestly, "I finished the maneuver." This was definitely an extremely accurate but evasive answer, and it was also very sarcastic. Gu Yunxia flew into a rage. She did not change her expression instantly, but her tone directly became high and cold. "Li Tianlan, watch your attitude. You did finish the maneuver, but it doesn't mean anything. You killed the deputy director of teaching of the Sky Academy during the maneuver. You need to give the school an explanation for this matter." She stared at Li Tianlan coldly and said resentfully, "You have to pay for what you've done." Li Tianlan frowned slightly. This was the first time he showed an unusual expression, but the reason was that he hated the saliva that Gu Yunxia sprayed on his face. He quietly took a small step to the left and said lightly, "Director Gu, did you see me kill Lu Xiaowei with your own eyes? Do you have any evidence?" Gu Yunxia was slightly stunned. In fact, during the fight between Li Tianlan and Lu Xiaowei, there was always a layer of dense leaves. What's more, there was a thin layer of ice above the leaves. Under the refraction of light from the ice, there was only a large piece of leaves on the monitor screen. No one could see the scene of Li Tianlan killing Lu Xiaowei with his own hands. But the forest was no longer within the scope of the maneuver, and there were only two of them there. If Li Tianlan did not kill Lu Xiaowei, did he commit suicide? Gu Yunxia gritted her teeth. She was so angry that she laughed and said, "How dare you quibble?" Quibble? Li Tianlan's eyes also became cold. "I don't need it, because Lu Xiaowei deserves to die." This sentence could be said to be a real show of his sharpness. Once the hidden sharpness under Li Tianlan's calm appearance broke out, even Gu Yunxia could not bear it, and her face turned livid with anger. Tianlan is right, Lu Xiaowei deserves to die. Beside Wang Yuetong, the mature woman, who was extremely sexy in both appearance and temperament, smiled gently. She looked at Gu Yunxia with eyes as cold as a knife. "Director Gu, we have just discussed about Lu Xiaowei. What's the point of saying this now?" "Oh, I remember, I just heard someone crossing the river. Now it's almost time to land. Is that Director Gu's descendant? Are you buying time for them? Why bother? The 5th and 6th place? What's the practical use of it, except that it sounds better?" "You!" Gu Yunxia, who was seen through, suddenly turned around and felt so aggrieved that she almost vomited blood. This year, she became the director of teaching of the Sky Academy. She was originally full of ambition, but now everything was not going well. She felt so uncomfortable that she wanted to kill someone. In fact, there was no difference between the 5th and the 6th place, but the person who came later represented the face of Kunlun City. It was naturally good to be one of the first places, but she could not say this kind of idea on such an occasion. "Don't slander me, let me tell you, so what if I'm slandering you?" The mature woman gently raised her rosy and delicate lips, and her eyes became sharper. "If I'm wrong, then you'd better get out of my way. Director Yi just said that Li Tianlan didn't do anything wrong. If you dare to touch him, you'll have to get through him first. Now I'm telling you, I'll give you 3 seconds. If you don't get out of my way, then you have to go through me first." Gu Yunxia's face was as ugly as the bottom of a pot. She was embarrassed and resentful, but she did not dare to say anything. Although the woman in front of her was not a director or deputy director, she was also a senior member of the academy. In the next 3 years, she was responsible for teaching the camouflage and lurking courses of the best students in this batch. It could be said that she was the leader of this course group. But what gave Gu Yunxia the most headache was her strength. Gu Yunxia was confident that she could still fight Yi Fengcheng. Even if she could not win, at least she would not lose. But if she fought with this woman, it was not a matter of winning or losing, but a matter of life and death. The Wang family of Beihai, code-named the Enchantress. One of the core experts of the Wang family of Beihai. Nowadays, the Enchantress could be said to be the real second expert in the entire Sky Academy. And as Zhuang Huayang's state continued to decline, it was also a question of how long he could suppress the Enchantress. The Enchantress was a senior member of the Sky Academy in the last session. She also taught camouflage and lurking courses, but in the last year, she also served as the leader of the assassination course group. The leader of the assassination course group had always been a position that only the real experts and the top assassins could hold. The fact that the Enchantress could hold this position was enough to show how terrifying she was. So let alone 3 seconds, Gu Yunxia only hesitated for a second and directly stepped aside. Although it was very embarrassing, it was nothing compared to the consequences of not giving way. Li Tianlan walked past the finish line smoothly. Li Tianlan successfully crossed the finish line, reported his name, got the credit reward, and completed the first maneuver of freshman with the result of 5th place. He came to the enchantress, bowed slightly, and said softly, "Thank you, teacher. I'm the enchantress." The enchantress, who was full of a kind of mature charm, smiled and waved her hand. "Don't be so polite. You are Yuetong's friend. From now on, you can call me sixth sister like her." Alas, in fact, with my age, Yuetong should call me sixth aunt. But calling me sister makes me look younger, don't you think? Teacher is young, so it's natural to call you sixth sister, Li Tianlan said seriously. Li Tianlan said seriously, his expression as serious as if he was giving a government report. The enchantress beamed with delight, nodded repeatedly and said, "You are good at talking. Oldie can't do that. He always says that I am the same age as him, and no matter how many times I beat him, he won't change." Not far away, Yi Fengqing's face turned red. He gritted his teeth and turned his head, pretending not to hear anything. Li Tianlan didn't know who Old Yi was, so he didn't speak. He quietly waited for the students after the 5th place. In less than 10 seconds, another 2 figures appeared in his sight. They were a man and a woman, both of whom looked very young. The girl, who was a little more than 1.6 meters tall but had an unusually hot figure, walked in front with steady steps. She wore a silver mask that covered most of her face, so her appearance couldn't be seen. But her delicate red lips were tightly pursed, giving people an impression of inner firmness. The boy who appeared with her walked beside her. He was more than 2 meters tall and walked beside the girl, indescribably burly and domineering. The boy looked very rough, and his eyes were even fiercer. The only thing Li Tianlan could feel at first sight of him was strength, enough strength. Gu Yunxia didn't wait for him to completely pass the finish line and said eagerly, "The 6th place, Gu Yulan. The 7th place, Su Yunzong. They are all from Kunlun City." Wang Yuetong suddenly appeared beside Li Tianlan and explained softly but seriously, "Before Gu Yunxia came to the Sky Academy, she was one of the elders of Kunlun City. She is from the same branch as Gu Yulan and Su Yunzong." Li Tianlan nodded. He did have a kind of instinctive hostility to Kunlun City. He wanted to ask about the specific situation of the Empire's Special Warfare Center, but he also knew that it was not the right time. After Gu Yulan and Su Yunzong, Li Tianlan waited for nearly half an hour before the 8th place staggered to the finish line. In less than 20 minutes, more and more students finished the maneuver, and soon they were all ranked after the 20th place. After that, they waited for more than 10 minutes. But this time, Li Tianlan noticed. The freshmen who had completed the maneuver had lost their own credits. This meant that although they had become Zhuanghuayang students, their credits had become negative from now on. Then it was the elite organization that had just separated from Li Tianlan. With Fan Haoyu in the lead, the group walked towards the finish line in a grandiose manner. Li Tianlan counted 9 people in total. He was already in the 45th place. There were still 4 places left. Li Tianlan counted in silence. At the same time, he looked at the others without batting an eyelid. Among these people, some would become his friends or even brothers in the next 3 years or even longer. Some would become his enemies, such as Su Yunzong, who was still glaring at him coldly from time to time. The 47th, 48th, and 49th place soon appeared. For Li Tianlan, he was also an acquaintance. They were the 3 leaders of the Flames of War. Lu Dongyu and Tan Qinhua carried the seriously injured Lu Dongchao and barely managed to catch the last bus. Out of more than a dozen people in the Flames of War, only 3 people were left. The others had been completely annihilated. It could be seen that Fan Haoyu was extremely excited. He tried his best to hold back his laughter, but his fat face turned red, which looked extremely funny. While waiting for the last place to appear, the enchantress, who stood near Wang Yuetong, became obviously a little anxious. She frowned until the 50th place appeared and then slightly relaxed. A woman of about 25 or 26 years old appeared in everyone's sight. She was a very standard beauty. She had a plump and exquisite figure, and her facial features were just right. She was supposed to be a very charming woman, but at this time, her face was pale, and there were countless holes in her camouflage uniform, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. She walked laboriously, and with every step she took, her body swayed as if she would fall at any time. Li Tianlan noticed the weapons in her hands at the first moment. They were two extremely exquisite double sabers. Double sabers? Li Tianlan's eyes slightly narrowed, and he glanced at Wang Yuetong. Wang Yuetong's expression was also a little cold. Do you have a grudge against each other? Noticing Wang Yuetong's expression, the enchantress slightly raised her eyebrows and asked. It was she who brought people to attack us just now. Didn't you see it, sixth sister? Wang Yuetong took a deep breath. Her plump chest rose and fell slightly, and the scenery was beautiful. I didn't notice. We have too many scenes to pay attention to. I may have been watching others' performance at that time. With your strength, facing these students, I'm not worried. The enchantress shook her head, looked at the woman who was swaying toward the finish line with the double sabers in her hands, and said softly, her name is Du Hanin, my student, and also a very poor woman. Yuetong, for my sixth sister's sake, let it go, okay? Wang Yuetong wrinkled her nose and snorted. She didn't hurt me. It was me. Li Badian smiled bitterly. Before the enchantress could speak, he said directly, forget it. Anyway, it's nothing. I was just too careless at that time. The enchantress nodded and said no more. When Du Hanin, who ranked 50th, passed the finish line, Zhuang Huayang also stood up in time. Very good. He coughed softly, looked at his watch, and said with a smile, the time taken for the top 50 to finish the maneuver is not much different from what I expected, and even slightly exceeded my expectations. Before the next maneuver, you will all be my students. I will treat you equally and do my best to help you improve your strength. He waved his hand casually, pointed to the school bus not far away, and continued, let's cut the crap. The top 50, get on the number 1 bus. We won't wait for the others. Everyone moved at the same time, walking toward the number 1 bus. Li Tianlan was just about to turn around when a low roar full of suppressed hatred and malice suddenly sounded behind him. Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan stopped, turned around, and looked at Lu Dongchao, who was carried by Lu Dongyu and Tan Qinghua, walking toward him. Not only him, but Wang Yuetong, Li Badian, Ning Qiansheng, and even some teachers nearby, including Gu Yunxia and Zhuang Huayang, all turned around and watched the scene in front of them. Although no one saw the battle between Li Tianlan and Lu Xiuwei, it was the most exciting scene in the maneuver. Now Lu Xiuwei was killed. As Lu Xiuwei's nephew, what would Lu Dongchao say? What's the matter? Li Tianlan looked at Lu Dongchao, who stopped in front of him, and said in an indifferent tone. You destroyed my flames of war, ruined my future, humiliated my family, and killed my second uncle. Lu Dongchao laughed miserably as he spoke word by word, and his voice carried an irrepressible ruthlessness and desolation. I'll remember everything that happened today. Similarly, I'll make you remember everything that happened today. Believe me, you'll regret everything you've done today for the rest of your life. I swear. You are no match for me. Li Tianlan's tone became more and more indifferent. But I have my family. Like a madman, Lu Dongchao smiled brightly and said, you also have your family, don't you? Don't worry, it will be gone soon. I will use all my power to retaliate. Your family, your relatives, your friends, and you, no one will have an easy time. I can make your life worse than death. I can do it. Just wait and see. Suddenly, Li Tianlan's eyes became as deep as the sea. You said these. He looked at Lu Dongchao and asked slowly, aren't you afraid that I will kill you now? Kill me? Lu Dongchao laughed wildly and even his tears came out. The maneuver is not over yet. You want to kill me in front of so many people? Do you dare? Bastard. F***CKU, do you dare? Kill me, come and kill me. Come and kill me, I'm waiting. Li Tianlan's pupils abruptly turned blood red. Li Tianlan. Wang Yuetong suddenly screamed, if you dare to kill Senior Dongchao here, I will be the first to kill you. She screamed and suddenly made a move. Under the wildly changing expressions of Ning Qiansheng and Li Beidian, she pushed Li Tianlan's back with her palm. Li Tianlan just wanted to fight back, but he found that the force Wang Yuetong pushed on his back was extremely gentle and not aggressive at all. Instead, he could use this force to get closer to Lu Dongchao. What a smart girl, what an enchanting woman. Li Tianlan's thoughts flashed violently. Under Wang Yuetong's palm, he deliberately spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body seemed to lose control and fell toward Lu Dongchao. Before Lu Dongyu and Tan Qinghua could react to this strange scene, Li Tianlan's body had already smashed into Lu Dongchao. Coincidentally, his palm was pressed against Lu Dongchao's heart, and he shook it slightly. Lu Dongchao, who was laughing wildly, suddenly shook his body. He stared at Li Tianlan with his eyes wide open in horror. In his line of sight was a calm face filled with endless madness. He seemed to open his mouth and softly say, "Idiot." Lu Dongchao, whose heart was almost crushed, blacked out and died on the spot. Bastard. Gu Yunxia, who was a little further away, howled and suddenly jumped up. An amazing lightning gathered in her hand and stabbed Li Tianlan. At the same time, lightning flashed on Li Tianlan's body. Lightning bolts spread out in a frenzy. Almost in the blink of an eye, countless lightning had wrapped Li Tianlan's body. The lightning gathered in front of Li Tianlan and hit Gu Yunxia in the air. The grand and dense lightning hit Gu Yunxia's body in an instant. The dignified director of the teaching office of the Sky Academy did not even hold on for 2 seconds. She was hit by the lightning and flew out, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Most people were stunned and looked at everything in front of them in a daze. The enchantress looked solemn. She looked at the lightning in front of Li Tianlan and then at Gu Yunxia, who fell on the ground with disheveled hair, and lowered her eyelids. Headmaster Zhuang Huayang, who had personally protected Li Tianlan, walked through the crowd to Gu Yunxia and said coldly, "You have no rules at all, Director Gu. Do you think I can't control you after I die?" Headmaster, Wang Yuetong and Li Tianlan are acting. Don't tell me you can't see it. Gu Yunxia roared hysterically. Zhuang Huayang snorted, turned around, and glanced at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan was lying on Lu Dongchao's body, completely unconscious. Wang Yuetong stood where she was with a blank expression. Flawless. What a smart girl. Zhuang Huayang praised her in his heart, and then shook his head subconsciously. Compared with Wang Yuetong's cleverness and quick-wittedness, her tacit understanding with Li Tianlan seemed to be the rarest. Chapter 29. When Li Tianlan woke up, it was already afternoon. He did not show up in his dormitory, but in the hospital of the Sky Academy. A single room, clean and elegant light blue walls, a soft bed, and dry and soft bedding. Fresh flowers and a plate of washed fruits were placed on the cabinet next to the bed. Right in front of him was a 55-inch LCD TV. Li Tianlan opened his eyes, feeling a little dazed and dreamy. His thoughts jumped from the gloomy and humid border to Huading, and then to the entrance maneuver of the Sky Academy. It took him a full half a minute to come back to his senses. He moved his body and sat up straight against the headboard. Almost instinctively, he took out his mobile phone and turned it on. One of the more satisfactory things about the Sky Academy was that students were not prohibited from talking to the outside world on weekdays. Students were only required to turn off their mobile phones during some sensitive courses or maneuvers. After all, a considerable number of students here were different from Li Tianlan, Li Beidian, and others. They held official positions. For example, Ning Qiansheng was the deputy battalion commander of the Thunderbolt Battalion of the Border Praetorian Corps of Zhongzhou State. He came to the Sky Academy for further study. Once the Thunderbolt Battalion took action and needed his help, he had to go back and report as soon as possible. There were many people like Enchanting who came to the Sky Academy with official identities. Some of them had more sensitive positions than Enchanting. No matter where they were, they had to make sure that others could find them as soon as possible. Therefore, mobile phones naturally became a necessity for every student in the Sky Academy. Li Tianlan subconsciously turned on his mobile phone. At first, he did not know what he was going to do, but when he saw the picture on the screen, he suddenly understood. On the screen, Li Tianlan's silly expression was so ugly that he could not bear to look at it. Qin Weibai, who was leaning against him, was smiling beautifully. Li Tianlan's eyes stayed on their interlocked fingers for a moment. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. There was joy, excitement, uneasiness, longing, and an almost illusory sense of loss and lack of confidence. He pursed his lips, opened the WeChat app on his mobile phone, and clicked on the dialog box with Qin Weibai. In the dialog box, Qin Weibai sent him another message. I found a very authentic Western restaurant in Bruxelles. The food is amazing. I really should come and try it with you. During the few days he was apart from Qin Weibai, Li Tianlan received messages from Qin Weibai every day. They were all trivial things about delicious food and beautiful scenery. Behind each message, there was a sigh that said they should visit together. Li Tianlan didn't know how to respond at all, so he never responded. The whole dialog box was filled with messages from Qin Weibai, one a day, neatly arranged. Li Tianlan hesitated for a moment. He typed on the keyboard awkwardly and replied, I've completed the entrance maneuver. A few seconds later, Qin Weibai's reply came directly, giving him the illusion that she was waiting for his reply at any time. This time, instead of typing, Qin Weibai replied with a voice message. Li Tianlan clicked on it. Qin Weibai's cold and somewhat ethereal voice came from the phone. Tianlan, are you hurt? I'm fine. Li Tianlan typed seriously. He was still not used to speaking with a voice message, especially when chatting with Qin Weibai. Only those who had experienced the sweetness of being careful could understand it. A little injury. Pay attention to rest. Don't risk your life before you recover. Qin Weibai's voice grew softer and softer. She paused for a moment, then sent another voice message. Come home when you have time. I left some information for you at home. Take a look. It should be useful to you. Li Tianlan was slightly stunned. Home? Go back to the border now? While he was still thinking, Qin Weibai said again, the key is with old you. Li Tianlan instantly understood that the home Qin Weibai mentioned belonged to Qin Weibai, the villa where he stayed for one night. Li Tianlan became confused again. He even forgot to reply to Qin Weibai's message. He had a very strange feeling in his heart. He wanted to control himself and not let his imagination run wild, but he couldn't. Indulge in wishful thinking? That was not entirely true. Li Tianlan could feel Qin Weibai's feelings. They were emanating from her every expression and movement. But he didn't know what these feelings meant and what they represented. He had his own guesses, but every time he thought about it, he felt that he was overthinking. Subconsciously, he didn't think that he was qualified to have anything with Qin Weibai now. How could a nobody who had nothing and had just started on the martial arts path make a woman like Qin Weibai fall in love with him? In terms of background, the Li family was extremely glorious 20 years ago. But now Li Tianlan's background could only bring more danger to him and the people around him. Li Tianlan didn't belittle himself, but he wouldn't be arrogant either. In general, perhaps his only redeeming quality was his potential. On the path of martial arts, he could be said to be a genius and a future expert of the invincible realm. But the other meaning of the words, future expert of the invincible realm, was that he was nothing now. In this way, no matter what, Qin Weibai didn't seem to have a reason to fall in love with him. Her contact information was given by his grandfather. So Li Tianlan had always thought that Qin Weibai's care for him came from her respect for his grandfather. Maybe it had something to do with his father back then. But he was never willing to think about it carefully. Time passed slowly. Li Tianlan didn't reply to Qin Weibai's message in the end. Instead, he put his phone aside and was lost in thought. Ning Qianqing pushed the door open and walked in with a pot of water in his hand. Seeing Li Tianlan in a daze, he was slightly startled and then smiled. "You're awake? How do you feel?" "I'm fine." Li Tianlan smiled. "How's Badian?" "Still sleeping. He's right next door. I've been running around. The doctor said that you're seriously injured and have to rest for a while. Try not to fight if you can. If this kind of internal injury accumulates over the years, it will become a hidden injury. It is very likely to affect a person's final achievements." Ning Qianqing poured a glass of water and handed it to Li Tianlan. He sat beside him and continued, "You were in a daze just now. What were you thinking about? Were you thinking about Lu Dongchao's death? Or Gu Yunxia? Don't worry, the headmaster has helped you deal with these things. At least in the Sky Academy, the headmaster's prestige is enough." Li Tianlan shook his head. Since he dared to do the thing about Lu Dongchao, he wouldn't worry too much afterward. He hesitated for a moment and tried to smile naturally. He asked, "Qianqing, do you think a toad can eat swan meat without doing anything?" Ning Qianqing was slightly stunned. He gave Li Tianlan a strange look and suddenly scolded with a smile, "What kind of toad are you? A toad in the chi-controlling realm who can kill a toad at the peak of the fire-flaming realm with wind and thunder veins? If you're a toad, damn it, what are we?" "I didn't mean that." Li Tianlan shook his head with a wry smile. "I meant relative. Compared to that swan, what I have is really nothing." "You mean Wang Yuetong?" Ning Qianqing hesitated for a moment. "What you have now is really nothing compared to her. But Tianlan, listen to me. You and Wang Yuetong should leave it to fate. Don't force it. Swan meat is not so delicious. Even if you can eat it, it may not be a good thing for you." Li Tianlan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was talking about Qin Weibai, but it seemed reasonable for Ning Qianqing to talk about Wang Yuetong. But the problem was that he really didn't have any feelings for Wang Yuetong. But he was a little curious about the mysterious Wang family of Beihai that he had never heard of but everyone was very afraid of. He didn't correct Ning Qianqing at the moment and just followed his words. "What is Wang Yuetong's background?" "Princess Yuetong, the demoness of the Wang family," Ning Qianqing said in a low voice, his expression serious and solemn. Li Tianlan found the words familiar. After thinking for a while, he suddenly remembered what Li Badian said to him in the maze. It was exactly the same words. He felt a headache and said helplessly, "I mean, what is the background of the Wang family of Beihai?" "You don't know the Wang family of Beihai?" Ning Qianqing's expression was even weirder. As a member of the special warfare system, he didn't know the Wang family of Beihai. It was just like the people of Zhongzhou State didn't know who the president of Zhongzhou State was. "I don't know." Li Tianlan felt something was wrong. The Wang family of Beihai seemed to be extraordinarily famous. But he had never heard his grandfather talk about it before. He subconsciously grasped the quilt on his body, expressionless. If the Wang family of Beihai was really so famous, then it could only mean that his grandfather deliberately hid it. What did it mean? It meant that the Wang family of Beihai was probably related to his father's treason case, just like the current Kunlun city. In less than half a month after coming to Huading, Li Tianlan finally saw the fog in front of him. And behind the layers of fog was the truth that had been hidden for many years. This was not bad news for him. At least it was much better than not seeing the fog at all. "It's hard for me to answer your question." Ning Qianqing thought about it and really couldn't figure out how to answer such a ridiculous question about the background of the Wang family of Beihai. "I'll put it simply. It's a super wealthy family with no shortcomings in all aspects. It's said that it once declined, but that was hundreds of years ago. Who knows if it's true? Zhongzhou State has been founded for nearly 500 years. The Wang family of Beihai has been glorious in Zhongzhou State for nearly 500 years. Their foundation is in Beihai province, but their influence can spread to the entire Zhongzhou state and even the entire dark world. So, do you understand? No. Li Tianlan shook his head. Ning Qianqing's words were too empty, so empty that it was hard to have a clear concept of the Wang family of Beihai. What do you not understand? A sweet and charming voice suddenly sounded at the door. Li Tianlan and Ning Qianqing were shocked at the same time. Almost at the same time, Li Tianlan had already reflexively grabbed the human emperor that had been put aside. Wang Yuetong, who pushed the door open and came in, was also a little surprised. Looking at Li Tianlan, who looked like he was facing a formidable enemy, she blinked her eyes and said, "Did I come at the wrong time?" No. Li Tianlan also felt that his reaction was a little too much. He awkwardly put the weapon aside and asked, "Junior sister Yuetong, why are you here?" "I came to see you." Wang Yuetong smiled and squinted her eyes. The dimples at the corner of her mouth were very attractive. She walked into the ward and handed 2 small boxes to Li Tianlan. She said, "Senior brother, I brought you something that will be useful to you." "What is it?" Li Tianlan took it with a smile, only to find that the 2 palm-sized boxes were made of sandalwood. Not to mention the contents inside, the 2 small boxes were worth a lot of money. He glanced at Wang Yuetong in confusion and opened both boxes, only to find that there was a glassware in each box. Inside the glassware, 2 kinds of red liquid were slightly stirring, one light red, the other dark red. After you passed out, the headmaster announced that the credit system was officially launched. This bottle of light red is called Heal. I exchanged it with credits in the warehouse. The dark red one is called Life Prolonging. It's a genetic potion developed by our family. Wang Yuetong sat next to Li Tianlan and looked at him seriously. She said, "Senior brother Tianlan, I know you don't trust me enough, but I'm willing to try to trust you. I'm willing to share my good things with someone I can trust. If you take these 2 bottles of potion together, your injury will immediately stabilize and you will recover in a week. You can't refuse me. If you can't figure it out, just take it as my investment in your potential, although that's not my original intention." Heal potion. Li Tianlan knew this kind of thing. It was a special potion specially provided by Zhongzhou State for the Sky Academy and the Deep Sea Academy. It didn't improve combat effectiveness, but it could quickly stabilize and heal injuries. In the student code of conduct, it cost 60 credits to exchange for a bottle of heal potion, and the price was clearly stated. Only the strongest group of people in the academy would exchange for a bottle of this kind of advanced thing when they went out for field missions. Some people would even be reluctant to give it up. It was a life-saving thing, and no one would be so extravagant as to use it to heal injuries caused by maneuvers. As for life prolonging, just by looking at Ning Qianqing's wonderful face, he knew that the value of this medicine was absolutely not lower than that of heal. Li Tianlan held the 2 small boxes in his hands and was silent for a few seconds. Then he raised his head and looked at Wang Yuetong calmly. "Thank you." He didn't refuse. Li Tianlan had always been very clear about what kind of attitude he should use to which person. This "thank you" was not only because of the 2 precious genetic potions, but also because of Wang Yuetong's marvelous assistance at the end of the maneuver. Without her help, Lu Dongchao would not have a good end even if he died. Wang Yuetong's pretty face blushed. She only felt that his calm eyes were unprecedentedly clear and gentle. She casually turned her head and saw the human emperor beside Li Tianlan. Her eyes slightly brightened, and she grabbed the human emperor. As soon as the human emperor was in her hand, Wang Yuetong's hands suddenly sank. She exerted a little force and grabbed the human emperor again. She smiled and said, "I'm afraid it weighs more than 50 kilograms, about the same weight as the heavy sword my brother used. Senior brother Tianlan, can this weapon change shape?" "What's its name?" "It has several different forms." Li Tianlan nodded. "It's called Human Emperor." Puff. Beside Wang Yuetong, Ning Qianqing had just taken a sip of water. When he heard the word human emperor, he directly spat out all the water, wetting a large area of Li Tianlan's hospital bed. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.